I think we'll get started. In the interest of time, I want to welcome everybody to the February 8th, 2018 Budget Committee meeting. The purpose of this meeting is for the proposed town budget public hearing. So before we get started, real quick, electronic copies of the proposed town budget can be found on the town website. There are also some hard copies in the back of the room if anybody needs those and wants to follow along as we go through the budget. A sign-in sheet is also located at the entrance of the room. Anyone in the audience, if you would please be sure to sign in. The meeting is televised and recorded, so please keep conversations to a low whisper. Dawn is not with us tonight. She is at another meeting, so she will be depending on all of the audio that comes in on this meeting tonight. Please silence your electronic devices, and then we will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to go through some quick introductions, and then I will walk through the process for tonight's meeting. So I am Mishka Haddock, Chair of the Budget Committee. Here.
Carrie Lee. Jen Byron.
Carol Martin.
Les Thompson.
Michael Keister. Tony Dumas, Select Board.
Peter White.
All right, and with us from the town, if you would like to introduce yourselves.
Sure.
Donna.
I'm Donna Davis. I'm the chair of the select board.
Thank you. And Chris Sterndale is busy. He's our town administrator, and will be presenting the budget as we go through. So the purpose of this hearing is for the public to hear the proposed operating budget for the town of Nottingham and warrant articles for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2018. The Budget Committee has been working with the town for the past few months to develop the budget that is being presented this evening. The committee works with the goal of providing the town with the resources needed to maintain service levels and pursue other initiatives of benefit to the town, but keeping in mind the taxpayers of Nottingham at all times. I will review the budget material at a high level and allow the town representatives to address major items on a per section basis. I will allow questions as we go. The committee members will try to address the questions asked, but may defer to the town representatives for further explanation or more detail. Once we have completed the process, we will close the public comment period and go into a Budget Committee deliberative process. This is where we will take all of the public input into consideration and establish the final budget that will go forward to the town meeting. The town meeting will be held at Nottingham School Gymnasium on Saturday, March 17th at 9 a.m. As I present the budget, I welcome questions that will help us make our final decision. I ask that you state your name for the record before speaking and state the specific line item if addressing a specific line item in the budget. Keep in mind that the Budget Committee has had many meetings with the town representatives to review the budget and analyze the information, but this is the last opportunity for the public to offer their comments, questions, and input before the committee makes its final vote. Once the final vote is made, the budget becomes the official budgetary document that will go forward to be presented to the voters. The basic rules for public comment. Public input will be allowed between each budget category. Please keep comments as brief and to the point as possible. Please come forward to speak into the microphone, even if your voice carries. State your full name for the record before beginning. One person speaks at a time. Do not speak unless recognized. Be civil and respectful to your fellow citizens. No personal attacks. Do not interrupt or use profane language. Direct questions and comments to the chair, please. So the proposed budget review, I will review the budget section by section, giving the town representatives an opportunity to add relevant narrative to inform the public and open the floor for questions and comments. If I'm going too fast or slow, please let me know. For the town representatives, when discussing particulars, please reference the page and line number so that the audience can follow along. So without further ado, I would like to welcome the town representatives, Chris Sterndale and Donna Dennis.
Good evening.
Chris, I think you said you wanted to give a couple of quick highlights before we go section by section.
Yeah,
Refer to you.
well, yeah, I'll just open with, comments about how hard the board has worked to, maintain a budget that's, reasonable, pretty near to level funding year over year. As always, we feel we're pretty conservative and only ask for increases where we need to. So I hope that you guys have found that as you've worked through with Tony and with Chris on that. So with that, I'll let you go.
Okay, I'm gonna put this on so the folks at home can see what you're seeing, I hope. Come on now, worked earlier. I'm just gonna go through pretty quickly. Somebody point at that box back there and hit number 1, would you? And we'll keep moving.
There we go.
Thank you.
Got it? Okay, thank you very much. Real quick recap of 2017, how we did against the budget that you set to town meeting last year, how town meeting approved. Talk about the bigger items in the operating budget, particularly things that are changing noticeably. Touch on the revenues real quick and the other warrant articles that are outside the operating budget that you as the committee also have to weigh in on. Most of this you've seen already as the committee, and members of the public may not have heard some of these things, so it's kind of a hybrid in that regard. Looking back at 2017, our budget was about 3.7 million. We spent about 3.52 million. So spent under budget as we always do. We don't have the option to go over, so we are always under by default, by definition. Most of the savings came from staffing vacancies. That shows up in our budgets in the payroll lines, the tax lines, the health insurance lines, retirement lines. Most of the year we were staffed in most places, but we had retirements and turnover in a few different places. Saved relative to what we expected to do on heat and fuel. And the shim and seal coat program was pulled back after the first half of the winter of 2017, which was really tough. We were nervous about the budget, had some pretty significant equipment problems in the highway department, and held back funds from that shim and seal coat program just in case. Turns out we didn't need to, but we didn't know that that time of year. We were over in lines on legal expenses, most of that related to the former USA Springs bankruptcy and all the, you may remember last year we were dealing with 7 or 8 different things simultaneously there. We had building maintenance challenges at the highway garage, the fire station. Those are the big ones. Vehicle maintenance was primarily highway vehicles, also fire vehicles, police vehicles. We had plenty of surprises in that area. And plowing operations in general were more expensive than we expected, mostly in the first winter of 2017, January through March.
Yeah, just one comment I want to make on that is being under on vacancies, under for personnel vacancies isn't an area that we're proud to be under on because that means we're understaffed in critical service areas. And so that wouldn't be something that I would expect people to count on year after year.
We don't budget for vacancies. We anticipate that if we have a position, we're going to have it filled
Right.
for the most part.
Yep.
Something that's vacant right now for 2018, we're not budgeting to have it filled right now. We've built some of that in, but generally speaking, any existing positions we expect to have them full year round. So that turned into a tax rate of all of that turned into a tax rate of 20.95. We went through this as a committee in some detail right after we set the rate last year. This is just a breakdown of town, school, county, state, the year before and the year we just finished. The tax base, which drives the tax rate as much as anything, grew by about 1% between 2016 and 2017. And given the tax rate increase that we were facing last fall, the select board voted to use $375,000 from the unassigned fund balance to offset what would have been a much bigger tax hike in 2017. Looking forward, 2018, no major program changes, no changes in services that create big budget changes. We'll have the same number of full-time employees. Those are the expensive ones because they come with benefits and retirement costs. We are moving a full-time slot around, but it's the same headcount. We'll see some increases in costs over last year because of elections. We've got 1, 2, 3 elections.
Yeah.
Only had the one last year. And some increases for our employees and officials that are outside of the merit pool. Our permanent full-time employees, when we give raises, it's merit-based line item in the budget. There are some increases for other positions in the budget. Decreasing costs, most importantly, health insurance premiums, our rates are going down. And with the same headcount and roughly the same mix of people, whether it's people with family plans or individual plans, we're gonna spend less this year. And that's the single biggest line item in the budget, and it's going down, so we're happy to have that when we can get it. And also, the debt service line comes down quite a bit as one of our bonds was paid off in 2017 for the renovation of this building. So that's a $33,000 change right off the top. Other investments we're making through the operating budget are a 1-ton highway truck for the highway department. We do have a utility pickup now. It's smaller than that and getting tired. The 1-ton's been in our capital improvement plan for some time. And also replacing a dry hydrant on McCrillis Road. That's a one-time thing that you talked about with the chief last time he was here. Sorry. And then other investments through different warrant articles, not the operating budget. Biggest is road improvements. We've talked about the bond proposed to pave Ledge Farm Road. That's gonna be about $650,000. We've talked about the fire engine replacement. Those funds are coming, proposed to come from the capital reserve fund. And we continue to add to our reserve funds for future needs. All separate warrant articles that are very similar to what you've seen in the past. So all told, proposed expense budget of $3.74 million, revenues of about $1.7 million. Very small increases in revenue in dollar terms. This is non-property tax revenue, most importantly, motor vehicle registrations. That number continues to climb as the value of cars increases and the number of people buying newer cars increases and the population grows. All those things contribute to that number. Steadily going up by $75,000 to $100,000 a year in revenue for the town. So you put it all together, our other revenue outside of property taxes is actually going to go up more than our expenses. So the tax burden created by the operating budget will dip slightly compared to last year. Am I going too fast? No. Warrant articles. These things have been on the warrant routinely. Road reconstruction, the deposits to capital reserve funds for fire vehicles, highway trucks, the tricentennial, town building maintenance. That proposed amount is going from $5,000 to $10,000 this year. We set aside money for the revaluation in 2020. Invasive species ETF is a couple of years old now. We did take, you've seen the last 2 or 3 years, a contingency warrant article for retirement liabilities as retirees, as employees retire. We typically owe them unused vacation and sick time. We actually haven't used it yet, haven't needed it, so we decided we could live without it. And as our workforce turns over, our older people are leaving, that liability shrinks. So the need for this goes away. New items that are not typical on the warrant are debt for road improvements. That's You'll tackle that separately after the operating budget. The replacement of the fire truck, and there's also a petition warrant article for a small appropriation that you'll see later in your discussions. And then other articles which don't carry appropriations. The acceptance of Strawberry Lane is back after an inglorious visit last year. The amendment to the fire vehicle capital reserve fund that we talked about with the chief, and then a handful of other petitions which you have the text for. They don't have appropriations attached to them, so you as a committee don't need to weigh in on them, and neither did the selectmen. They just go straight to the voters. So the total tax burden that's created by this warrant, all in, all the operating budget and all the separate warrants, is about $2.5 million. Our tax base, we don't know what the tax base will be on April 1st yet. That's the number that we'll actually use to set the tax rate, but we know that last year it was just under 612 million. Billion, right? Where are we? 612 million.
Yeah.
No billions yet. If you take all those costs, divide them into that tax base, turns into a tax impact of about 406 per 1,000. Compare that to the town tax rate that you just saw in your most recent bill of 368. The big difference between those is the use of fund balance to offset taxes last year. If not for that, the tax rate would have been, the town tax impact would have been much closer to that 406. I think that's it. That is it. Quick and dirty. Want to add anything?
No.
No. Yeah, you're the only one who has that. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's a good number.
Screen.
I want to welcome Susan Levinson. She's a school board representative. I want to make sure that.
Thank you.
I'm going to go through the proposed budget category by category and offer the town for a chance of narrative, offer the opportunity for public input, and then give the grand total to the proposed budget, and then go through a last call for public comment. So all of you should have, if you have a budget in front of you, there are some on the table in the back if you'd like to follow along. The first category is executive department total, lines 4130. The proposed budget for 2000, sorry, hold on a second. The expended budget for so the, yeah, I'm just doing the total budget. Yeah.
Approved budget.
Right. That's why didn't have that column in front of me before. All right, so the approved budget for 2017 was $199,306. The proposed budget for 2018 is $203,625. A budget difference increase of $4,319, or a 2% increase. Did you have any comment to add or any questions from the public? Going on to the next category, lines 4140, town clerk department total. The 2017 approved budget was $69,795. The 2018 proposed budget is $76,322. A difference increase of $6,527 for a difference of 9% increase. All right, going into the next category, lines It's so small.
It's like
4140?
43 and 4130 is the account, is what it looks like.
That's account, the line number is the second column.
Yeah, no, I'm doing, yeah, account numbers. So line 33 through 43, election department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $7,885. The proposed budget for 2018, $17,500. A difference, increase of $9,615, or a 122% increase. I think Chris mentioned, yes.
Christian Matthews, what's the current hourly rate for supervisors and election workers?
Refer to Chris
Going from
Sterndale
8
for
to
that.
9.
It's right around $8 an hour.
Right,
If it isn't exactly 8, it's right around there.
yeah.
Any other questions? All right. The next category, 4150, lines 44 through 63, or 64, sorry, Financial Administration Department total. The approved budget was $108,966 for 2017. The proposed budget for 2018 is $109,544. A difference of $578, that's an increase, and an increase of 1%. The following category, lines 65 through 76, assessing department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $76,620. The proposed budget for 2018 is $78,798. A budgetary increase of $2,178, or a 3% increase. The following category, lines 77 through 79, is the legal department total. Approved budget for 2017, $22,010. The proposed budget for 2018, $18,010. A difference in the budget of minus $4,000 for a negative, for a drop of 18%. The following category, lines 80 through, yes, oh, I'm sorry.
Liz Kutowski, I'm just wondering why you are expecting the legal budget to go down so much?
It had to do with the water plant treatment, not water treatment, but I'm sorry, the,
Property.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
those arguments are behind us, I think, for a while.
The most expensive ones are.
Yeah. All right, line 80 to 91, Personnel Administration Department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $525,056. The proposed budget for 2018 is $494,569. A decrease of $30,487 for a 6% decrease. The next category, lines 92 through 107, the Planning Board Department total. The 2017 approved budget was $29,766. The proposed budget for 2018 is $34,800. For an increase of $5,034, or a 17% increase. Yes.
Christian Matthews, have we discussed internally about who the planning support is gonna be provided for? Or is that depending on the budget passing, then we'll go out for requests?
Provided for or provided by?
Provided by.
Provided by. At this point, we're expecting it to be contract-based or project-based rather than a standing thing. But we'll have to kind of let the traffic at the planning board dictate that for us. They're expecting, we used to have a staff person, or what used to be building inspector would provide staff support to the planning board. We've broken that function out, so we've set aside some additional funds for them to get contract help if they need it.
With a private contractor or SRPC?
It could be either one, yeah.
Okay. The next category, lines 108 through 115, zoning board department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $3,260. The proposed budget for 2018 is $3,260 for a $0 increase or change and a 0% change. Moving along, line 116 through 150, the other building department totals. The 2017 budget was $169,332. The proposed budget for 2018 is $148,604, a decrease of $20,728, or a 12% decrease. Lines 151 to 153, the cemeteries department total. The budget approved for 2017 was $11,000. The proposed budget for 2018 is $18,000, a difference in the budget increase of $7,000, or a 64% increase. Lines 154 through 158, the insurance department total. Approved budget for 2017 was $90,269. The proposed budget for 2018 is $87,278, a difference or decrease of $2,991, for a 3% decrease. Lines 159 to 160, the Planning Association Department total. The proposed, or the approved budget for 2017 was $2,500. The proposed budget for 2018 is $2,500, for a $0 increase and 0% change. Yes?
Christian Matthews, is that, those are dues for SRPC that we don't actually pay?
We're not a member of SRPC, so that's probably gonna end up being used very similar to that other planning line. It's that same kind of services. Actually, just really, we had some costs in there that I thought were there for traffic counts that we did last year. I would have thought they went to that line item, I just realized they hadn't, so they're in here somewhere, but that's the kind of thing that we would use that line for.
Okay. Lines 161 to 186, the police department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $583,988. The proposed budget for 2018 is $591,801, a $7,813 increase, or 1% increase. Next category, lines 187 to 215, fire and rescue department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $254,907. The proposed budget for 2018 is $279,500, a budgetary increase of $24,593, or a 10% increase. Moving on, line 216 through 229, building inspector department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $57,555. The proposed budget for 2018 is $35,623, a budgetary decrease of $21,932, or a decrease of 38%. Lines 230 to 243, Emergency Management Department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $4,011. The proposed budget for 2018 is $4,311, an increase of $300, or 7% increase. Lines 244 through 264, Highway Department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $523,100. The proposed budget for 2018 is $608,380. The difference in the budget is an $85,280 increase, or a 16% increase. Line 265 to 266, shim and seal coat department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $285,422. The proposed budget for 2018 is $291,130, a $5,708 increase, or a 2% increase. Lines 267 to 282, Recycling Center Department total. The 2017 approved budget was $192,138. The proposed budget for 2018, $195,200, an increase of $3,062, for a 2% increase. Lines 283 through 287 is Animal Control Department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $4,820. The proposed budget for 2018 is $4,700, a decrease of $120, for a 2% decrease. Lines 288 through 296, General Assistance Department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $7,000. The proposed budget for 2018 is $7,000, for a $0 change and 0% change. Lines 297 to 315, Social Services total. The approved budget for 2017, $27,075. The 2018 proposed budget is $26,150, a decrease of $925, or a 3% decrease. Lines 316 through 329, Recreation Department total. The 2017 approved budget was $91,348. The proposed budget is $86,741, a decrease of $4,607, for a 5% decrease. Yes.
Liz Kukowski. Just wondering about the Marston property. There's nothing budgeted for that. Where does that stand in terms of developing even just simple trails and something like that?
Yeah, so we've had some engineering work done on it.
Just about done with that.
Yeah, just about done with it. What we're finding, so, town meeting approved $200,000 last year. What we're finding is that the cost of what we would want to be done is significantly higher than that. We've had some volunteer activity going on more, we need lots more. And we've had some folks pursuing grants, but we haven't been successful in that area yet. So basically, we need more money in order to move forward with it.
I
Yeah,
believe
the work, the design is permitted as well, so it's, you know,
I
We're
was
as
gonna
close
say,
as we can be without.
Right.
the state permits have been approved,
Yeah.
so we can stick a shovel in the ground, we just need to get the process in place. Yes.
And more money.
Yeah.
Christian, is there any estimate as to how much we need to get what we really want?
We can do phase one, which is a multi-purpose field and some trails and a parking area for something in the neighborhood of 350,000. We have 200,000 or 190,000 to work with at this point. That neighborhood.
Did you have a check tonight?
The select board is actively fundraising.
Yes, we are.
Not shy of asking. Lines 330 through 334, Library Department total. The approved budget for 2017, $160,909. The proposed budget, for 2018, $164,870, an increase of $3,961 for a 2% increase. Lines 335 through 337, Historical Society Department total. The approved budget for 2017 was $500. The proposed budget for 2018 is $500 for a $0 change and a 0% change. Lines 338 through 350 is the Conservation Committee Department total. The approved budget for 2017, $2,035. The proposed budget for 2018, $2,015, a decrease of $20 for a decrease of 1%. Lines 351 through 361, Debt Service Department total. The approved budget for 2017, $188,106. The proposed budget for 2018, $152,911, for a decrease of $35,195, or a 19% decrease. Line 362, operating budget total. The 2017 approved budget was $3,698,679. The proposed budget for 2018 is $3,743,642, a budgetary increase of $44,963 for a 1.2% increase. Do we have any public comment to the budget? Yes, sir.
Robert Wygant, forgive my ignorance, but what exactly is the Shim and Seal Coat Department?
It's not a department, it's the repaving and sealing of asphalt roads. So it's
Asphalt roads?
Yeah,
Not
Yeah.
completely ripping them up, but basically giving them a new top coat.
overlay.
Yeah.
another-
It's a
Yeah.
singular line item that's massive, so.
It is,
Yeah.
it is. And we keep that conservative, we keep that consistent. And we're slightly behind on where we should be
Yeah.
with that. But we maintain that cost pretty flat every year and do what we can with it.
Contracted out.
It's more of a road maintenance division, right? Versus,
But
Yes.
strictly
versus
for
road,
asphalt, right?
versus road
Yes.
building, yeah.
There's no similar department or line item for the non-paved roads.
No. No. And again, it's not a department, it's just the highway department that does that.
Well, it's listed as the Shim and
Separate.
Seal Coat Department.
It's an account, essentially, yes.
And that work is all contracted out. We don't do much of that with our own people.
Right.
So that's another, I think historically why it's been broken out, because it's a contract now. It would be equally appropriate as a single line item within the highway department.
Yeah, I was just curious as to, because it's massive, it
Yes.
stands out like a sore thumb.
Yes.
Marguerite Tucker. I guess I should ask this question to one group, but on the cemeteries department total, why was the increase of $7,000, is there something that needs to be done as far as cemeteries, or why the increase of $7,000?
Yes, fence repairs, they've got about $30,000 worth of fence repairs identified. There's a whole bunch of other things that we'd like to get done too, but fences, yeah, they just actually got some quotes on that. So we're gonna try and take a bite of that off this year. If you set foot into any one of the three, you will see fence problems.
Any other questions, comments? All right. We're going to turn to the revenues page. Chris, did you want to give some highlights?
Yeah, there isn't that much to tell here, and quite honestly, this is the least important piece of this, because we're just estimating really for the purposes of showing the net tax impact of the budget. If we hit these numbers or we don't hit these numbers, it's not really controllable in any way, shape, or form. We will, before we set the tax rate, we will go back and look at what we actually have collected through most of the year and project the remainder of the year, and then use that information to set the tax rate. So this is really just a guess of what we can take off the expense line to show a tax impact. And when there's not much changing, there's really not much impact of this exercise. But we do expect continued increases in motor vehicle permit fees. That's $32.20 on your list there. We always budget these below what we really think they're gonna bring in, but just to avoid presenting a picture at town meeting that isn't as conservative as we can be. But actuals have been climbing on that line. We're over $1 million in receipts on that. That goes up by at least $75,000 or $85,000 a year the last 3 or 4 years in a row. So that's the biggest change versus what we estimated last year. We're also anticipating additional building permit revenue. The select board's gonna consider a tweak in the permit fees next week. And even if they don't accept those and we use the existing permits, this is looking like a very busy year for home construction. We have a lot in the pipeline already, and we're 5 weeks into the year. So we know that we're gonna have a busy year there. The other big ticket items on this list are the rooms and meals tax and the highway block grant. Both completely uncontrollable and subject to the whims of the legislature. We do have some good sense of what they will be, but we always play those a little bit conservative as well, just because you never really know. So all told, we're expecting, for this exercise, we're budgeting about a $70,000 increase over what we budgeted last year. We budgeted, and we did much better than the budget last year. We'll probably do the same thing again next year. So we're just trying to give a good faith estimate of what's the worst case scenario for revenues, and that's what we're trying to achieve here. So we don't sell a estimated tax rate at a town meeting that is not close to reality.
Right, exactly.
Everything below that subtotal of operating revenues is transfers amongst accounts, and it's balance sheet stuff. It's just noise. In most cases, it's not real money. It goes from one account to another and looks like revenue on some forms, but
Transfers from the reserve funds and so on.
yeah. And you see the very last line, 9999 in 2017. That is $375,000 coming out of the fund balance and into current year revenue to pay down the tax rate.
Right.
That's where that comes from.
Okay. So the estimated total revenues for 2018 is $1,687,550. The subtotal of transfers would be $557,700 for a grand total of revenues of $2,245,250.
Yeah, just one glaring example of 3915, transfers from capital reserve funds. That's the $525,000 for the fire truck that we don't know if the voters are gonna approve, but we have to reflect it here as a potential revenue source.
It's a revenue source that comes in but goes right out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it comes from our own pockets.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it comes from the reserve fund that's already funded from
Yes,
prior
exactly.
years, so.
Correct, yeah.
Any questions from? All right. We will now proceed to the warrant articles. So Article 1 is to choose by ballot all necessary town officers for the ensuing year. I'm actually just gonna cover the warrant articles that have a budgetary impact, as the others will be voted on by the voters, so. So Article 2 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $650,000 for the engineering, design, and highway construction and reconstruction on Ledge Farm Road or other roads in Nottingham if a priority arises, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $650,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the municipal officers to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon. The estimated tax impact is unknown per thousand of property valuation during, starting in 2019. Do we have any comments or questions? Yes.
Question I have is, I think the big question that we have is, it was put up as a bond, 650, that's gonna come out to about $760,000 over 10 years. That's a pretty steep, amount for a bond, and I understand why it was bonded to lessen the tax rate. But Chris informed me we can't amend that to make it a property tax rate, but I wonder if, looking at Article 2 and 4, if there was any thought of maybe not passing Article 2 and maybe amending Article 4 to just do this all now. It's a long-term, we're losing money by bonding this out, and I wonder, these roads need to be done if we just take the hit now instead. It also, I think it's a simple majority, whereas now we're looking at 2/3 majority, and that's a pretty big bond to get passed at a 2/3 majority.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Want it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big amount. It's a big amount, and thinking about the tax burden and what it would be on all the people in town, we felt it was better to level it out via bond rather than to take the hit all in 1 year, which for some people would be prohibitive.
It's about $1 a year on the tax rate.
Yeah, it's about $1 a year in the tax rate. $1,000.
Yeah.
So maybe, $200 to $400, depending on where your home value is. But over the long run, I'm talking maybe $30, $40 more, so.
Yeah, we talked about it, we felt the bond was a better way to do it.
Kind of levels out the,
And there is the risk that voters will not approve it at town meeting.
Yeah.
I expect there'll be good discussion about it.
If it doesn't get approved, can warrant Article 4 be amended to increase that funding?
It can be, yep.
yes.
I agree with Chris.
I'm sorry, your name?
Christian's point.
Can
I'm
you state your
sorry,
name?
Robert Wygant.
Thank you.
I agree with Chris's point about the bonding. The other side of the coin is that this is just the beginning. These are not the only two roads that are in disarray. There's Guile where we live, there's Priest, there's Kennard, that are all suffering and continue to suffer. So to look at these two and say that's what it is, that might be 1 year. But if it's something that's recurring, considering doing something similar to the shim and seal code, only, so that there is a reserve in place for this to be done over time. They can't all be done at once. It's just not practical, two, not feasible financially. But if there were finances in place, because to have a budget of $225,000 for the paved roads and nothing in place for the non-paved roads, that to me, that makes me feel like a second-class citizen, because my roads are not being maintained adequately.
So I'll tell you that if you look at the CIP plan, there's a CIP committee, and they take a look at and project expenses out over a 7-year period. So we are kind of looking at the impact out over time. We also did some traffic count studies to see, which of the roads that need the most work were getting the most traffic, and that's how we ended up with Ledge Farm. And we're also looking at doing an analysis of roads town-wide to determine, where our major risks and challenges are, which will then help us prioritize moving forward. So now, this is a really, the asphalt roads, yeah. This is a really expensive one, right? Other roads that need to be done may not be as expensive. This was the one that had the greatest need, probably the one that's gonna be the most expensive. Okay, maybe not.
I mean, Giles is twice as long as the area that needs to be paved on Ledge Farm. Ledge Farm's 1 mile, Giles 1.9 miles on the unpaved side.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be substantially more expensive to do. But nevertheless, regardless of whether it's paved or simply improved, there is exposed ledge in front of my house, and it turns into a train wreck. And it's not just the winter, it's all year round. There's something going wrong on Guile Road. And whether it's improvement through better road base, to cut down the amount of dust, because what they're putting down is pretty much the same sand that they put down, during the winter, that they're putting down as road base. That's not road base, that's just dust. So to have a budgeted amount to maintain these unpaved roads is at least a start.
Go ahead.
I don't think you can look at one line item in the budget, shim and seal coat, as this is all the money we spend on the asphalt roads, and there's no line for gravel roads, so we don't spend any money on gravel roads. It's, the shim and seal coat line is basically maintaining a prior investment. If you want your roads to last, you spend all this money to bring them up to where they're ready to pave, and then you pave them. It's this enormous amount of money. It's $650,000 for what's left of Ledge Farm. The best thing you can do is spend money on that regularly, a little bit of money on it regularly to maintain its value. Once it gets past a certain point, it gets outrageously expensive to bring it back. So gravel roads don't work that way. And there's no measure in our operating budget for the time and material that we spend on gravel roads versus asphalt roads. And I can assure you that on a per mile basis, our sanders and our off-winter maintenance activities on a per mile basis are spent dramatically more on gravel roads than they are on asphalt roads, because gravel roads require that level of maintenance just to keep them passable, particularly in the winter. So you can't look at a line item budget like this and use it as a proxy for how much we spend on gravel roads and how much we spend on asphalt roads. And we have about 5 times as much in asphalt as we do in gravel. So, and most of our highly traveled roads are already asphalt. So you just can't look at this particular budget as what we spend on each kind of road.
Oh, no, I'm not discounting the amount that's needed to maintain the asphalt roads. It's just I'm not finding anywhere in this budget that has any type of calculation of what is spent on maintaining the gravel roads. There's nothing in here on it.
Yeah, we don't
So
have that
from
information.
a resident's perspective, as a taxpayer's perspective, I'm looking at this as you're not spending anything. So, you know, to at least have something in here so that we know what it's, you know, what it's being spent on, or where it's being spent, or if it's being spent at all. And to the point of the disrepair that all of the gravel roads seem to be in right now, does it make sense to have a capital reserve or some sort of fund set up so that there is maintenance of these roads that can be affirmed, that can be looked at and said, you know what, okay, Kennard's getting really bad, we need to start doing something, we need to do some substantial improvements. We have the money, it's in the budget, we can do it, rather than having to bond it out.
We can certainly talk about that. We can certainly talk about it.
Yeah, we have, each year, we typically have, and it's Article 4 this year?
Yep.
So the road reconstruction warrant article is pretty much the outcome of our capital improvement plan. You know, we pick one project typically each year, that's mid-sized, you know, good-sized, mid-sized project, and tackle that through that line item. This year, it so happens, that's a gravel road. And this article is obviously a gravel road, so, there's $850,000 being spent on gravel roads this year, if these are approved. And that rotates around. Last year, it was barely an asphalt road. You know, it moves around based on priority. So we do spend a good chunk of money each year. It's just not in the operating budget like that. That $200,000 road reconstruction article is, it's very stable, and it's there every year for, I don't know how long, but a long time.
Well, I mean, because it's not necessarily about whether or not a road that is a gravel road now should be paved, but rather whether that gravel road needs to be, its drivability and passability is improved. I mean, when there's exposed ledge on a road, on a hill, and I watched my school bus literally slide down the hill at that spot, that tells you that something needs to be done there.
Roads are a passionate issue in Nottingham.
Yeah.
Very passionate, very emotional.
Very polarized.
Very polarized, exactly. And everybody in town thinks that they live on the worst road, whether it's gravel or you know, pavement. So I think Chris and the highway department do a really good job of trying to balance and prioritize and make sure that the ones that need the most immediate, you know, attention in terms of risk and, you know, safety and all of that, I think they're doing an excellent job of prioritizing that. We are, as I mentioned, going to potentially look at having someone come in and consult with us on the state of our roads and where we, you know, give us that outside view of where we should be, you know, paying special attention, and that's gonna involve both paved and gravel. So I get that it's, you know, that you may live on a road that you think is worse than everybody else's, but it's.
I don't. Honestly, I know that Ledge Farm is far worse, that Cooper Hill is far worse than Guile. It's just what, I wouldn't want, you know, this to be the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and then until your wheel starts falling off, it's not gonna get touched.
Yeah.
Because you know, Guile is getting progressively worse. You know, the winter ruts get deeper, the summer dust gets worse, the road base is in disarray. I'm not, you know, saying we need to allocate 1.1 million to pave the thing. What I'm saying is, we do need to spend more on things like better road base, not driveway sand.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything else that we can tell you other than, you know, we try to do the best that we can. And we try to use the CIP at the same time when we're trying to maintain, you know, a reasonably level funded budget.
Thank you.
Can I just add one more comment to that? If you look at the capital expense of road grader, that's almost exclusively a gravel road machine. And for the most part, I may be wrong on this, but for the most part, I would expect that the highway department's salaries outside of plowing season are dealing with gravel roads almost exclusively as well. So those items are in the budget for gravel roads, if you think of it that way.
But what isn't in the budget is the material to put down.
Doesn't Nottingham have a
We have a sand pit.
quarry or a sand pit? and,
But
like,
that's the
where-
problem, is that you can't just
Sand,
put
yeah.
sand down and
Material,
call it
though.
I hear
good.
you.
No, but there's material, there's
There's
other
some, yeah,
raw
we don't
material.
have a lot of crushed gravel in our pit, which is a better road-based material than winter sand.
And when a road is rebuilt for pavement, they use a whole lot of rock to build up that base. And that they have to pay for bringing it in from outside. That's all in the reconstruction budget. That's not a maintenance item for the dirt roads. Perhaps it should be.
That's the point that I'm getting at.
Sure.
That's exactly what I'm getting at, is perhaps it should be. Because, again, it makes me feel like a second-class citizen when, there's 225,000 spent. There's a line item for maintaining, the asphalt roads, but there's no line item for maintaining the gravel roads.
Yes, Nicole?
Nicole Brewing Matthews, so it kind of got brought up, but I think, both as a question to this article, it would be really valuable if instead of bonding it and paying, I don't wanna say wasted money in the future, if you guys could put that review or analytics into place to say if a fund would be helpful, because then it's, we're funding it before we have to expend it, and we don't pay interest on it then when we need it, and we can handle it at the time when these emergencies or priorities arise. So it got kind of caught up in the conversation, so I just wanted to make the point known that I think it'd be really helpful if that review could get made.
We can have that discussion.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,743,642 for the 2018 operating budget. This article does not include appropriations voted in other special or individual warrant articles addressed in this warrant. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $3.36.361 per thousand of property valuation. Are there any questions, comments? Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 for engineering, design, and highway construction and reconstruction on Cooper Hill Road or other roads in Nottingham if a priority arises. This is a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32-7, Roman numeral 6, and will not lapse until the work is complete or not later than 1 year after the end of fiscal year 2018, whichever occurs earlier. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is .327 per, or 32.7 cents per thousand of property valuation. Yes.
Christian Matthews, so what was the reasoning for doing this part of Cooper Hill? The part in Cooper Hill and Nottingham is paved, and then are we gonna pave up to the town line and then leave the rest? It just seems like there's a perfectly good state highway there maintained that runs down into 4. It seems like we're just gonna be asking for more traffic if we keep paving, and then they're gonna keep coming down on the 4 to jump left and head east on 4, which is gonna need a signal then at that intersection, because certainly it's unsignalized right now. I think the traffic count Chris had said is 349. I mean, once people know that the road is getting better, they're gonna keep coming down, and it looks like we're gonna keep adding more expenses there, when again, there's a perfectly good state highway. We see this problem out in the seacoast, and what they're looking at doing now is just closing the road off and putting in a roundabout, so the road is not divided, so you can't actually cross through anymore. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, you may invite some redirection of traffic. The Barrington half of that road is still gravel, so you gotta be pretty determined to cut through if you're gonna cut through on Cooper Hill. But at the volume that it's at and at the amount of work that we spend on it now, just keeping it passable, sending the grader way up to the other end of town. It's our only gravel road way the heck up there. I think those things combined, it's been on the priority list for a while. It just keeps getting pushed back. You can make a case for virtually a lot of the miles of gravel road in town are comparable. This is a little bit busier than some, so it's not the priority that Ledge Farm is, I wouldn't say, just on my list, but it's certainly top two. Yeah, and we can put it off. Still gonna have to do it. Leaving it the way it is will, I think in the long run, end up costing us more in maintaining it than just getting it done and kind of set it and forget it, which is what you're able to do with the asphalt.
Is there any way that the select board can maybe reach out to DOT for a safety audit application at the intersection of Cooper Hill and 4? I mean, at an unsignalized intersection, turning left onto 4 with 300 going up to 500 at AADT. I mean, you're going to see more traffic incidents there.
That intersection at 150, where 152 meets 4 and goes across to Cooper Hill, that's been on the DOT list, and just this year found its way back on their radar, and they're gonna try some kind of new signaling signage device. I don't know, it's not a stoplight, it's something else that they'll be installing there, because it's been our priority intersection with DOT for a long time. Miraculously, we haven't lost anybody at that intersection. It's bad. Going left out of either direction is terrible.
It's particularly bad because we have students who drive to Co-Brown.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? 16-year-old, 17-year-old kids who are maneuvering that intersection.
So DOT is moving forward with improvements there. They've actually bought land, and they still own land, to run 152 square into Route 4 to tee it off. They've backed off of that plan due to cost, and the signal changes is the best thing we can get at this point. So I don't know if it's going to work, but we are on their radar finally with that intersection. So.
Bonnie went on to McKinnon. As a person who lives in that part of town, in West Nottingham, I think Cooper Hill is a very important road for people like me. I don't see a lot of traffic on it. It's mostly local people, because it cuts off mileage from going way up to the supermarket intersection and then going if you're going to Rochester, Barrington. And also, you can't really shut it off with a rotary, because people then use Haynes Road. Then you really have a lot of phone calls, because that road's not in very good shape. There's even a town road, but it comes out right across from Garland.
Yeah, the last thing we want to do is force traffic onto Haynes.
Exactly.
That's
We'll skip Article 5. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to amend the purposes of the Fire Vehicle Capital Reserve Fund to add as purposes of expenditure. I'm sorry, I intended to hit, yeah, sorry.
No, do 5. Then do 5.
Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be added to the Fire Department Vehicle Capital Reserve Fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 0.163 cents per, or 16 1/3 cents per thousand of property valuation. Any questions? All right. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added to the previously established capital reserve fund for the purpose of performing a statutory revaluation of property every 5 years. The next revaluation will take place in 2020. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 0.041 cents per thousand of property valuation. Yes.
Christian Matthews, I actually had a question on Article 6. If Article 6 passes, will we look to rename that fund?
Probably not. I mean, the purpose lives on regardless of what you label it.
Just because it says vehicle.
It says vehicle, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's too late now.
Yeah,
It wouldn't have been terrible. What we're really doing there is using it for that purpose for 2 years. We're gonna use $150,000 next year out of that for breathing apparatus. Yeah, it wouldn't have been terrible, but it's too late now. And the purpose is what the voters vote for, so. Yeah.
It just seems like, you know, it's gonna easily pass. We might, if we're gonna keep, it seemed like those breathing apparatus got updated every 5 years, so it might be something.
Every 15.
15, sorry.
Yeah.
That maybe if we're gonna use this fund, we might just wanna change the name to just increase the communication for voters.
Great.
You're gonna do Article 8?
Yes. Oh. No, I wasn't going to.
It's got a budget committee recommendation line on it.
Article 5 does as well, even though it's a zero
Yeah, it's a zero
tax impact,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
there's still a place for a recommendation.
Yeah. We'll do those later during our deliberative session. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added to the previously established capital reserve fund for the purpose of, oh, I just read that one, sorry. Article 10, let me check that off. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 to be added to the highway truck capital reserve fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 12.12 cents per thousand of property valuation. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $10,000 to be added to the town building maintenance and repair expendable trust fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 0.016 cents per thousand of property valuation.
I guess I apologize, I missed the last meeting. Is there a particular purpose for that $10,000, or is it just to get that account up to a certain amount?
Well, the stated purpose is for repairs to town facilities. It was, I think when it was created, its primary motivation was the heating system in this building, which is 40-something years old. It's the next big ticket item to die, and it's not something we'll be able to wait until March to get the money to replace it when that day comes. We don't really have enough in there to do that, but the reason, that's reason number one, is to build that fund up to get us to the point where we can do that. Second reason is we've identified other things that are going to need to be dealt with without a whole lot of notice at some point before too long. The newest, biggest ticket item is the lift at the library, is now at the end of its projected lifespan. When that fails, you know, we're gonna wanna act on it quickly, and we don't have the funds to do that when that time comes. We don't wanna budget it and replace it until we have to. We're gonna run it into the ground. So rather than replace it before we have to with an appropriation and an expense in any 1 year, we're just trying to bulk that fund up to to be ready for.
Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be added to the reserve fund previously established for the purpose of funding the Tricentennial Fund for the celebration of the town of Nottingham's 300th birthday in 2022. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is .008 cents per thousand in property valuation. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the Invasive Species Prevention and Eradication Removal Expendable Trust Fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is .016 cents per thousand of property valuation. Yes.
What is this being spent on, like, what invasive plants are there? Well, is it, so this goes to the milfoil?
Yeah, so remember, Peg, we used to go forward and we used to ask for,
Isn't there one following that, though, for that? There's
yeah,
another-
that's a petition one.
Oh,
But
so we're doing two then?
We're doing one.
We're doing one. The one that we're doing, we initially started going to the town asking for, it started at 4,000
Right.
to help fund the Lake Coast
Right,
program,
right,
right?
yeah.
2 years ago, I think, when we first, started to look at the milfoil issue, or covered the milfoil issue, what we decided to do was to increase that, to set up this fund so that we could build up a reserve in the case of,
A major infestation.
catastrophic. We've been fortunate that DES has been supporting. So the intention of this fund is to have part of it go to that annual Lake Coast program and the other to,
So it's a fund, not, it's like, okay, like a capital reserve actually fund?
yeah, a special reserve, something, yes.
Could you just clarify? It's not just for the Tuckaway, is it?
Correct.
No, it's for your place.
Nottingham,
Public,
for all
public bodies,
public bodies of water.
yes, yeah.
Could this also be used,
Yes.
could it also be used for the, knotweed problem that we have along a lot of our roads in Nottingham? As an
Public
invasive
bodies
plant
of water,
species?
public bodies of water only.
This is bodies of water,
Yep.
okay.
And public water bodies, I think is how it's worded, but, yeah.
Yep.
Please say that.
So just to be clear, Article 13 is specifically for public bodies of water,
Yes.
Yes, that's how it was established.
but it's not, how do you figure that out? By just
By the
reading this?
language of the warrant of the original town meeting that authorized its creation.
Okay.
So you have to do another warrant article to change the purpose, if you want to change it.
Okay, but when people vote, what will they be reading? Will they be reading what we have in front of us right now?
Yes.
Yes.
And how will those people know, without additional information, that this is for public bodies of water?
We, at town meeting, we talk through each of the articles.
How many people vote that don't go to the town meeting?
Nobody,
Okay, so that's part of the voting process.
all
You
of
don't
these
vote if you don't
articles
go to
are
the town
voted on
meeting.
at town meeting.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Except for the first article.
Well,
Except
correct,
for the
yeah.
first article, right.
Yeah.
Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,800 for the purpose of conducting courtesy inspections of boats using the state boat launch at Fundy Boat Ramp and the Pawtuckaway State Park boat ramps on Pawtuckaway Lake to remove fragments of exotic invasive aquatic species and to educate the public on how to prevent the spread of exotic species from water body to water body. By citizen petition, majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is .008 cents per $1,000 of property valuation.
So I'm now confused. Is this duplicative of money that already exists in another budget or another reserve fund?
Well, I'll just speak for the select board on this. The select board recommends this appropriation by a vote of 0-4, which means we do not recommend it, because we do feel that there is duplication in what the intention of the fund set up in Article 3 is. We were frankly surprised by this petition warrant.
Article 13.
Sorry, Article 13. We didn't put this one forward, and so we're not sure what the logic is of the petitioners.
Can I ask a question about this article? This article was approved, would that money go to the Pawtucket Lake Improvement Association, because they're the ones doing the inspections?
Yeah, it doesn't say.
It doesn't say that in the petitioned article. So the purpose would be authorized.
Would be up to the selectmen if it was approved as to how it was
I
spent.
think that's how that would default.
Yeah, I mean, the way that it happens is typically what they would do is come to the selectmen and request those funds, essentially.
So the
It's how-
petitioners might have put this in because they wanted to make sure they were getting those funds, so they could conduct that program, rather than leaving it up to chance.
There's no chance involved already. They already get the funds established. This is a private effort.
Well, why would they be petitioning an article if they're already getting it?
It's any citizen's right to put forward a petition warrant article. It's a private effort, and the select board voted not to recommend it.
Haven't they been doing a good job?
Well, it's not a matter of doing a good job, and you know me. You know I used to run the program.
Yeah.
You know I'm the first one that went to town and asked for the money to support the program. So, and everybody on the select board supports the program 100%. We made that shift to the fund, 2 years ago to make sure that there was continued funding for the program and that we could further make sure that we were protecting ourselves against, a catastrophic, invasive. So, I mean, again, select board supports it 100%, our intention is that we would continue to support the excellent program.
So you're
Yes.
saying Article 13 covers it?
That was,
Yeah.
yes, Article 13.
It sounds like they're just trying to ensure that, since Article 13 can be anywhere, they're trying to ensure that Pawtucket is covered, is that maybe it? Who knows? Okay.
And I'm not even being devil's advocate here. So you have new elections for select board members, right? What if the new members don't feel the same way about it you do?
Well, there,
In terms of the priorities of how these funds will be used?
The voters approved the purpose of this fund. The select board just administers the money. The voters approved the creation of this fund and its purpose.
Well, if I'm understanding it correctly, and I may not be, Article 13, the intent at the moment is that Pawtucket Way will be included in that, and that'll be a big piece of it. But that's not a requirement for Article 13. That's the intent at the moment, but that can change. Whether the likelihood of that changing, I would guess not very likely, but there could be new people on the board that don't feel that way about Pawtucket Way.
yeah, but why would they let money sit there and add up?
Well, there could be other areas that they feel are captured in this scope of invasive species that aren't necessarily related to Pawtucket Way. And they would rather see that those funds go elsewhere.
So I don't know that there's that many other, when you define it as public water bodies, there's a limited number of those in town, and if there already is milfoil on Pawtucket Way,
Right.
let's get that straight. If it was more widespread, it would be detrimental to this town. If the lake becomes.
And
So,
I know how you feel about it.
the town has a vested interest in making sure that lake stays healthy and, enjoyable, right?
And I totally 100% agree, and I know, how you feel about it, how important it is to you. It's important to me, it's important to a lot of people that live on the lake that spend a lot of their own time, to volunteering to keep it out. So someone feels it's important enough that they want to double down on this, that it's that critical, that Article 13 doesn't necessarily mention Pawtuckaway. It's possible, perhaps unlikely, possible that these funds could be used elsewhere. So it's important to someone to want to double down on this and make absolutely certain, because it's that important.
Well, since they're not here tonight, we can't answer that question, but hopefully they'll show up at town meeting and explain it at town meeting.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did they do a presentation to the selectmen about this, or talk to you at all?
Nope.
Bonnie and Ellen McKinnon, as a person who doesn't live on any body of water, except for North River Lake, I mean, West River and West River,
That's the body of water.
there are other lakes in town, and that's one of the reasons, the last budget hearing, I brought up the question, is this for Pawtuckaway or for all, because it's not written for Pawtuckaway? Would it also, it has there in the past been any money given to protect North River Lake, Nottingham Lake, and there might be couple of other ponds that I'm not thinking of that are public.
So this was started supporting a very specific program.
That was before this fund.
Correct.
And every time that we voted on it, it was about $4,000.
Yep.
And you would usually present it.
Yep.
And it was for the Lake Association, and the citizens knew that's what it was for. But this one sounds to me like it's for all of the lakes, but then only Pawtuckaway gets any money out of it, because maybe they're the only ones that have an association that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard of any other requests from any.
Well, I don't think the other lakes have public docks where you could like inspect boats,
Yeah.
anyway, just private lands. The way it's written, it's not just for Pawtuckaway, that's my understanding as a citizen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
very, it's very deliberately written to be for any public body of water, and if,
Correct.
So
I think
anybody could
Pawtuckaway-
claim-
yeah, anybody could come forward and say, I have a use for some of this money for that same purpose, and they could come to the select board and say, can I have some of that money for this purpose, and they would be.
And so now the Pawtuckaway Lake people come in to the board and request so much money every year for their program, right? But it's not all the money.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like, how much did they request this year?
They got the full amount that, was it,
4,800.
some, I think it was the 4,800.
4,800,
The
yeah.
figure
was the
sounds
4,800.
So I have a question, which
Yes.
is that if Article number 13 is not approved by the voters, Pawtuckaway Lake Improvement Association needs the 4,800 or the 4,500 for a match for the Lake Coast program. So having the select board not support that, it would be helpful if the select board would approve it and if the 13 did not get approved. So there would still be the normal appropriation.
We've already voted.
Yeah, yeah.
No one came in to talk to us about it.
I don't think anybody envisioned the concept of that $10,000 not being appropriated by town meeting. I don't know if there's ever been even a vote cast against it, let alone.
Because there is an active infestation in Pawtuckaway Lake.
Right.
And should that spread and get worse in the, years to come, DES is not able to.
That was the
fund it
intention of the
as much,
fund.
Then people
14?
in town need to understand that if the property values go down on the lake, the tax contributions from the lake will go down.
And that's
So,
our point.
everybody has a vested interest in it, whether you care about the lake per se, you care about the dollars that the taxes bring.
Yes.
Just to elaborate a little bit on what Liz just said, I think it is valuable to have Article 14 there in the, I'm gonna say unlikely, but possible condition where Article 13 fails at town hall, or at town meeting. Then they get the Article 13, the Article 14 as a backup, and we can advocate for that, given that Article 13 just failed. So I think it's valuable to have them both.
We still have a line item in here about that purpose.
What line?
Somewhere there's a dollar for that same purpose. Where is it?
The purpose of having an account?
The use fund.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Anyway, we should let them move on.
Where I was going in my conversation here, Mike, was, I think, yeah, here we go. Line 20, in the operating budget. I think what would happen, and I can't speak for the board, but I'm gonna speak for the board. If somehow Article 13 failed, and somebody came forward and said, we wanna do lake monitor, we wanna monitor the lake, we need $4,800 to get a match of $4,800, and so we can protect the lake. I suspect what would happen is that the board would find $4,800 and come up with the money anyway out of the operating budget.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that you see at $1 in that line 20, is that makes that purpose authorized, and the board can then spend money on that purpose. They can find it somewhere else. So the scenario, the nightmare scenario where no money gets appropriated in any other warrant article, I bet we would find a way around that.
So that's effectively your Plan B.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why you see $1 in
Right.
some of these line items,
maintain
because
the
we
line
need to,
item.
we need to authorize the purpose.
Right.
And it's kind of gimmicky, but it's there if we need it.
Is that doable, though? I mean, the no means no, if that warrant fails. I
That's-
thought that meant that
that's
you
what we'd have to-
couldn't.
We'd have to weigh, where depositing money in a trust fund is not no to that type of, necessarily no to that type of.
To that
So we-
specific use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because the trust
We-
fund's broader.
But that is exactly the kind
Yeah.
of question we'd have to ask.
Yeah.
But if 14 was no, then we couldn't. No, I take it back. Never
It's
mind.
different.
Yeah, never
Yeah.
mind. Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask a question about that, why isn't line 20 have that 4,800 in it? Senior, we have 10,000 coming out of town meeting every year, we have to expend it, why isn't that 4,800 showing up under line 20? That way it would guarantee that that money would be designated for that.
Because if you don't know necessarily how much it's gonna cost in any given year, so the flexibility of the trust fund, the match bounces around, or the hours bounce around, the number moves around a little bit.
Yeah.
That's one thing that makes it easier, and and if you put money in here, then what you don't spend doesn't go to a trust fund and reserve, it just goes back to the undesignated fund balance, so.
I think it's always been one of those things too, that we viewed that the voters of the town have a right to vote on that.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully the selectmen are supportive of it too, and it seems to me if you would put 4,800 into line 20, the petitioned article wouldn't be there.
Well, we thought by doing the fund that the petition warrant article wouldn't be there.
Yeah, I think the selectmen need to be a little firmer in their support and leadership by putting money right in your budget every year, rather than having them go to warrant articles in order to get their funding.
I hope you're not questioning my support of the program.
No, not a bit, that's why, well, to be honest with you, when I saw that 0-4 vote, it's like, that was shocking.
So my question would be, has the group ever not received the necessary funding?
No.
How much is in the trust fund that Article 13 is funding, in terms of a balance?
8,500.
Yeah, I mean, we just started it. But you could spend $30,000 per acre, is that the right number? With a massive milfoil outbreak.
It seems to me we might need both. Like, there actually may be a good reason to build up that trust fund and separately fund the allocation for the annual.
Yeah, you have to, again, you have to balance those types of decisions with the overall tax burden, right?
Well, and, I'm sorry, the reason we don't have a major problem there is because of this inspection, this courtesy inspection program. So it seems to me we should be supporting that, so we don't have to put the hundreds of thousands of dollars into a milfoil ratification effort.
That's why we have supported it.
That's what Article 13 covers. That's your boat inspections and your.
Been covering it.
Your divers that go out and remove milfoil, that covers all those things.
Well,
That means we don't have a reserve for if we get a much larger.
Right, but think of the risk of if you divide your funds and you divide the management and leadership of those funds, and then those you know, if the board and then whoever's managing the other money doesn't agree on how it should be spent, then that money is used less effectively,
Yeah.
right?
Just so you know, the funding of that program too comes from three sources. It comes from the Hampshire Lakes Association, which offers matching, right? The town contributes money. The PLIA also contributes some amount of money and a lot of volunteer work that goes with that as well. So there are multiple sources of funding. The Pawtuckaway Lake is one of the crown jewel lakes of New Hampshire. It generates it's second in generating revenue for the state parks, with Hampton being one. And they get meter traffic revenue over there as well. So the PLIA over the years has developed an excellent relationship with DES. Currently, right now, all of the activity that's going on that to eradicate the milfoil is being done by DES, right? So Pawtuckaway's not paying.
And volunteers.
And volunteers, correct, yes.
But the diving is done by DS.
Some of the
No, there's
diving-
volunteer divers.
Some of it is PLIA as well. So we're fortunate that we have a fantastic relationship with DES. They have a very big, investment in this lake. And so right now, the cost of the milfoil is predominantly being covered by them and the volunteers. So the thinking behind the fund was like, what if we get at some point in the future where it's bigger and DES is backed out of their support? And that's why we felt incremental increases over time would be appropriate.
Do you have any? I guess you
She
hand
asked
up
the
it.
question I was gonna ask.
Okay. All right,
Real quick, there's a typo too, in the first row of Article 14, it says to raise and appropriate the sum or, should be of.
Article 15 has no tax impact. Article 16 is the same. Article 17 as well. And Article 18. Article 19, 20, 21. And that is all of the articles that have a tax impact. And since we're on the warrant articles, I think Article 2 also has a spelling on the bottom line, $1,000 of property evaluation. There's a D in there for
Value addition.
He puts those in there just to make sure that people are reading them.
Well, it could be a new word, value addation is,
Value addition, yeah,
that could be a
exactly.
good word.
So, all right, so the total of all of the warrant articles is $4,168,000, $168,642. The total estimated tax rate, including the articles, is $4.063 per $1,000 of property value. I'm not gonna go through the increase. There was an adjustment with the $375,000, so the tax rate, last year's tax rate was what, 368, so an increase of 0.383 cents, or 38 cents per thousand, so, yes.
Question actually, Carol brought up, Jennifer brought up, no means no. If Article 2 fails, can money from Article 4 be spent on Ledge Farm Road?
No. My first quick answer would be no.
Even though there's a difference between bonding and.
Chris, even though it says 4 other roads, it still wouldn't.
Yeah,
It says or other roads if a priority arises.
Well, that's also, it's saying engineering, design, highway construction, and reconstruction. It's not saying that if there wasn't a problem, we couldn't take care of a problem, correct? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna get some help on that question. Yeah, that's,
Because it is stated Ledge Farm.
Yep, I think they generally defer to, you know, what does it look like the voters were trying to say there? And,
Right,
yeah.
right.
What is the intent of or other roads in Nottingham if a priority arises? What's the intent of that statement?
We use that, we use it in 4 as well, and we always have something like that, to be, if something goes wrong somewhere, you can't get the project done in a place, or if you need to say, if you're in an intersection and you wanna do an apron off the road that you're working on, and you wanna leak over onto an abutting road or something like that, you wanna have a little bit of flexibility. In this case, if you know, if the bids come back lower than we expect and we need more on Cooper Hill, we wanna be able to, you know, shuffle a few bucks around.
Okay.
So it's really just to not box us in too tightly. I don't think the board would say, well, the voters said yes to Ledge Farm, but I wanna pave my road instead. I don't think you'd see them doing that.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
that would be, it's not, we're not looking for that kind of flexibility.
But it doesn't have the leverage of, well, we really think that Ledge Farm's more important personally, so we're gonna take that Cooper Hill Road money and put it to Ledge Farm, even though it was voted one down and one up.
Right.
You wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, if you put your mind to it, legally you might be able to, but from a practical point of view, I don't think you could.
Okay, thanks.
But it still allows you to use those funds should should something like catastrophic happen to Ledge Farm Road, you could potentially use those funds to repair Ledge Farm Road.
Yeah, or if, you know, well, God forbid we have a flood, lose a bridge, whatever, you know, we need to, you know,
Let's not do that.
yeah, but,
If Article 2 failed at town meeting, couldn't Article 4 be amended at town meeting to expand the roads that it could be used for?
maybe, that's kind of the same, no means no question, but if the voters then, you know, spoke in the affirmative on 4 for a particular road, say they voted down Article 2 and then added Ledge Farm to Article 4.
Because we'd have to vote on the amendment, so that would be the voters
Right,
deciding.
and if the revised Article 4 included that language, then that would be fine, I think, but I'm gonna get some guidance on that,
That's
just in
pretty,
case.
if that happened too, that'd be a significant alteration to Article 4.
Yes.
And how would that be impacted by is it the
The
state,
10%.
stay-at-home rule or whatever that's
The
called?
10% rule may apply there as well,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. People have to know what's being voted on.
Yeah.
So like you couldn't, at town meeting, you couldn't come up with a completely different warrant article that said, you know, I want to build a barn in the middle of Ledge Farm Road or something like that, because it hasn't been discussed at a public meeting like this. Everything has to be discussed at a public meeting.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily suggesting adding 650 to Article 4, but just that the language of Article 4 could be revised to allow for other roads if we were concerned about that.
Well, it does say, that has the or other roads in it as well.
Chairman, can I ask, why aren't road construction, maintenance, paving part of the capital improvement plan? I mean, it's something we're gonna have to plan long-term to address. It's gonna take a lot of money. Shouldn't it be part of the capital improvement plan rather than trying to do it one road at a time and having these huge amounts of money coming out for one road here and one road there?
Yeah, but behind the top page of the capital improvement plan, the committee has a breakdown of what our priority projects are.
Yeah.
And there, you know, there's 6 or 7 years worth, or 8 years worth for a 6 or 7 year plan, so.
But the roads aren't part of that, are they?
The specific road names and which of those projects, no, they are not part of the,
Or which
the
fund
top
is,
level.
which fund is designated for that? I mean, it must be a reserve fund designated for that then.
A fund, no, we have not used a fund for road projects. We've used these individual warrant articles, these road reconstruction warrant articles, typically about 200,000 a year.
That's basically just a planning tool,
Yeah.
you know, so that we can, you know, anticipate where there's gonna be peaks or valleys in the budget. You know, and it gets reassessed every year, so it could change.
If we were just putting 200,000 a year into a fund, and that way we can pick and choose which roads needed attention from year to year. No, we'd have that fund, you know, added to every year, rather than having a $650,000 hit in 1 year for one road. Seems to me it's short-sighted.
Well, they have
Yeah,
an
but then
article
you're-
like
you're
this
still-
every
you-
year.
Yeah.
They just, the Article 4 is presented similar to this every year, for that same intention.
Right,
So
but
the
Article
200
2 is added this year, and that's an additional, so it's $850,000 we're talking just this 1 year instead of 200,000. So that's, you know,
If 10 years ago, or if 4 years ago, we had put an extra 200,000 aside
Yeah,
every year, then we wouldn't need to have a conversation about 650 this year.
right.
That's,
But you're talking an additional $200,000 impact to the community every year, on top of the 200,000 that you need annually to build or maintain these roads.
seems to me the way we're going, it's gonna be a lot more every year than that. Let's say 150,000 this year. What's gonna be next year?
No, keep in mind that was written to be bonded over 10 years.
Right.
So it's not 850 this year.
But if you do something every year, that, you know, once again.
no,
it's gonna-
we could switch to that methodology. There's no harm in that. I think the voters like a little more control on any given year, but that's probably how we got to this custom.
Yeah, it's certainly something that can be discussed.
And I know that was the whole purpose of the capital improvement plan, was to eliminate the peaks and valleys in the budgets and in the.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
all right. This is the final chance for public input on the town budget and warrant articles. Yes.
This has on Article number 20, which about the acceptance of Strawberry Lane, is there a financial impact to that? There's nothing indicated.
There's no appropriation that comes as a result of it. There's no direct tax impact, no cost. There's a burden to us, and then we're taking on additional roads to maintain. But the act of acceptance does not create in and of itself any cost to us.
Any other input or comments? If there's no further input, we will close the public hearing on the proposed town budget. Do I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you very much. The public hearing is now adjourned. We're going to take a 5-minute recess, and then with the Budget Committee will come back for its deliberative session.
We need to vote on that motion?
Oh, we need to vote on that. All in favor of, yes, adjourning the public hearing.
There you go.
All right.
The ayes have it.
I really wanted 6 minutes. but-
The ayes have it.
Ayes have it.
The ayes have it.
Okay, so I'm new to the area, your town hall meetings, when you vote for things like this, it's not a confidential vote, is it a raise of hands?
Yeah, you can, again, almost
It's
like
just a
someone
raise
else.
of hands.
Yeah.
They can do a secret ballot on
Yeah, sometimes.
contentious or if it's a close. Or I guess did like a reason one some years, and then if it was a close call, then which then takes like 20 extra minutes to do a secret ballot.
Yeah, the fire truck last year, they did a secret ballot, but.
Yeah, we did it on Sunday.
Yeah, but it was just, you put it down in paper.
Everybody has to individually.
Jot it down and throw it in a basket.
So like how many people do you have?
If
It's
there's
not that
contentious
many. When you
issues,
think
it can be a
about how
lot.
many people are in town, there was what, maybe 200 last year?
Was it last year or 2 years ago when we did the Marston and the track was 2 years? That was
And
what
we
we
did the
want.
school, the teachers' contracts and the school, contracts for Co-Brown and.
That wouldn't have been a town.
That was on the ballot.
Oh, no, that was the deliberative, that was the school
yeah.
deliberative session there, that was packed, because that was very neat.
I think the quid was 2 years ago, not last year.
It was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think that was 2 years ago.
People feed throughout the day too. Usually it starts busier in the morning, but it goes for 6-7 hours sometimes. So,
Sometimes.
So
It can,
people
yeah.
can say what they've come for is over.
So if someone says, I'm in Florida, you know, at that time of the year, but I really want to vote on something, can I just have a lot?
A lot of towns end up going to SB2.
Yeah.
Because then you vote on the ballot.
Well, it's when you're going.
I guess with technology nowadays, we could probably Skype them in or something.
It's probably written in the statute that you can't. You gotta be there.
Wow, well, on the road stuff, it's gonna be,
Just saying.
I think that's, if you're on the road, you gotta be passionate about it. If you're not on the road, you travel it once a year, you know, that's a totally different perspective.
I know, we've been talking about it across the board, I
If Article 3 fails, we don't have a default budget. What happens if this isn't passed? Like on the school side, we have the default budget, so there's like a, I don't remember.
Don't they go back to the 2017 budget? Is that what happened? Because we don't have specific contracts in the town like we do on the school side. Yeah. I'll ask that when it comes up. I just don't remember. I mean, there must be some.
Yeah, I feel
plan
like
to
for some
continue
reason I go back to the last
operations.
approved budget.
I'm not 100% on that one.
Yeah. Seems like I should say it in the language. Shank. I was trying to remember which one fourth was.
Yeah.
I start with the blend together.
I just got it. She sent it out to everybody.
Oh, just Bobby.
Yes. There's a lot of shenanigans happening in this classroom right now.
Oh, really?
And it makes me worry about what Bobby's doing.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering how. I hear shenanigans, it makes me worry.
This is his life.
I like your questions too, buddy.
Yes.
Jen's running again.
Yes. Yep. Now your turn? When
I
did you
have
come up?
2 more years.
Oh, that's right. You ran for the year. Yeah.
Oh, you're in the 3-year?
Yeah, I think Michael was up in last year, or is he 2?
Oh, yes, no, he was one, because
He was
Mishka was
appointed.
gonna do.
I think he's running.
Yeah.
Yes, he's running for the 2 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to get in, so I'm not on the ballot. But I think
Come
that
to the first
actually worked,
meeting.
I think that worked out okay, because there's 2 people that went in for the 1, for the 2 1-years. Oh, okay, oh, fantastic. And then Michael went for the 2, and then you went for one of the 3.
Yeah, I think I was
so
the only one that went for a 3, and there's
Yeah.
3 of them open.
Yeah,
So I talked to Dawn on Friday, because there was no way I was gonna be able to get in, because I think there was a delayed start on Friday too, because I had just gotten to work, and she called me and she said, I can't fax in, I have to be present. I'm like, well, that's just not gonna happen, because I was at work every night till 7, so she should show up at the first meeting.
Because that way you just get appointed for the remainder.
Yeah.
You can decide
And I
how
think
things are
that-
going.
Right, I think that works out, especially where my schedule's so chaotic right now, so that works well.
Yeah. You can't drive yourself crazy.
Co-Brown. Yeah. So we were back and forth.
Were you guys still torn?
Yes, I like a lot of the stuff that Dover offers. You know, there's a lot of good programs, a lot of good sports, a lot of things that he was looking at. They did great at their presentations and stuff. It really kind of caught the kids' interest. But I think when it came right down to it, it's the commute. You know, it's 23 miles to Dover, and it's 13 miles to Co-Brown. So, and I work 23 miles south. So I'm like, if I have to go from Londonderry, past my house, up to Dover, and then back, you know, in a day's time, so it's 100 miles. So, and if he wants to do robotics or any sports or anything, yeah, it just wasn't going to work. So we sat down, we talked about it and everything, and I said, if you don't like Co-Brown, you can always change, but right now, that's what we're going to go for. We just got the letter to go to class sign-ups, like registration.
And they steer you to what, track or whatever, you know.
So the window was closed.
Yeah, and that was a lot of what David didn't like, because we felt that the Co-Brown presentation was very weak, that it wasn't as informative as what the Dover presentation was. That Co-Brown's presentation was more based on their track across country and band program. It didn't really bring the interest in for all the other programs. Like, we're a big lacrosse family. What about the lacrosse program? I mean, we know somewhat about it from being in the Black Bears program, but we really don't know much about the Co-Brown program. When we went to Dover, we could actually sit there and talk to the coaches and stuff, but when we went to Co-Brown none of that was available to us. So we still don't know a lot of those things. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. And I know we could have reached out to their guidance program and stuff and asked for more information, but it just didn't seem.
The legislature prescribed.
Sir, how are you? Good. For creating a CIP plan or whatever, but that's great. That's good. Those things are usually sitting in sand anyways.
Yeah, with no context. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, but that's
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Won't be happening on my watch. Yeah. Yeah, right. All right, thank you.
Oh, no, yeah.
I have a sick kid at home too, so my brain's kind of like in multi. No, it's all right. I think he took him to urgent care on Tuesday, and his flu was negative, but my husband just emailed me
We
a ton
can
of
certainly do
2 hours.
that when we go to
So
vote
sometimes
on it, but we
getting
can't,
progressively slowly worse.
we can't change it.
Just in terms of my vote.
Now he's got no appetite.
Is this something that I support?
Yeah, we're gonna go through that, so all
We
the
might,
ones
in the morning. I
that
talked to
call
the
for a
pediatrician
budget committee
today,
vote,
like, yeah,
you can shoot
probably
it
write it
down,
out, but that was before
or you
his
can
fever.
vote, you can vote for it or against it. And then on the 25th,
We'll see.
in this room is the public hearing
Yeah,
for
and they say even
the
for the flu, they weren't recommending, they said, you know,
so
this
that's
is a
when
little
the
baby
entire
or
community is
woman or
invited to come
something
in and have a real
in
discussion
the
about
house,
it.
but he doesn't have any other health
I'm
obligations.
leaving on the 17th, and I'll be
Need somebody
gone.
over here to kick me under the table if I'm going off on a tangent. It's like,
There are some side effects.
No, it is, well, I mean, we're selling a property in California. So I'm just out there and get it ready to sell.
Yeah,
I mean, it's already sold as far as that goes, the closing
right.
down the road a bit.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't do the budget committee, because I thought, you know, I'm just not reliable enough to be here. Now that we're selling that place, I'll be more reliable. But that's why I'm leaving, is to go to stuff.
Yeah, the fever seems to be doing a really weird pattern. So I apologize,
Sonoma?
my brain is not processing everything as it should be right now. My worry is going
I know
from
you
sense.
HRA circuit for a number of years.
No, we raised our kids there. We were there for 13
Tomorrow will
years.
be day 3. So I was,
And
you
we
know,
thought
hoping
we'd
I'll
be
get
here
tomorrow.
kind of
Normal
as a,
weekends to recover. Yeah.
you know, test. But my wife is from here, so I should have known. This is not really a test.
Yeah, but I mean, if there's anything that I can do, you know,
Yeah, my wife is,
after tonight, if there's anything I can help with, I'm happy to.
So I
Okay.
transplanted her to Chicago, and then
Thank you.
we decided that we needed to move and get out of the big city, and so on. We came back east.
But she loves it here. She loves the lake.
Yeah, that's amazing.
how you been doing?
I'm doing okay, it's really busy with everything.
You missed the public hearing at the State House.
I did.
Yeah,
Nice turnout.
I read the minutes that you guys had, but
65 people turned out, so they had to put us in a bigger hearing room. And, you know, the committee was, you know, half of them were taking the
Yes, remember that?
state government line and just raising all these hard questions. But all the answers were just so firm and passionate and to the point of the questions they were asking. And you could just see them over the course of the hearing.
We'll never
yeah,
be
there
famous.
was
Their steam.
I was gonna say, why, what happened to Siemens
Committee
Point?
members against it. Of course, it's always up to the chairperson and the speaker.
You live in
how-
Siemens Point.
how it's
No,
gonna
I'm on Highland.
That's
Yeah.
politics.
It's funny because.
It was a good hearing.
it's good.
And if the voters lead, the leaders will have to follow.
So,
Just have to vote out a
kind of
few.
a.
All right,
Washington DC too.
Aaron Moscow is home with an
It
entire.
was very good.
Want to share it with us, so unfortunately.
I wonder if the petitioners
Yeah.
knew that there was the other.
Maybe because it's zero,
One other person who's not accounted for.
$0. If you look this up,
All right, we will,
it's like it's zero.
we will commence with the Budget Committee deliberative session. The process at this point is to review the entire budget, and we will go page by page, not section by section. At the bottom of each page, I will ask for any recommendations for any potential changes. If you do have changes, please identify the line number and line item and the amount to change the line by. And then we will either increase or decrease as requested, call a motion, get a second, and proceed with discussions, and then restate the current motion and vote. So that is going to be the process as we go forward. So page 1. I think I'm on the same one you guys are. All right.
I guess can I just, I'll raise the
Yeah.
question because we were just speculating. Wondering if for line 20, the Pawtuckaway Lake Advisory, if it would make more sense to actually allocate funding in the budget for that which would potentially negate the need for Article 14. And we don't know why Article 14 was proposed, but it looks like you're $0 funding that advisory, which might be why people think that they need a petition warrant article. So I just want to raise that as a, would that make more sense than to just put the $1 funding in?
Mr. Chairman, I was gonna make a motion that we add $4,800 to line 20, or $4,799 to line 20 to make it 4,800.
So now I have the question of what is the downside of doing that?
Right, that's why I'm
Seems
raising
to be that
it.
there must be.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Carol, thank you.
I'm gonna open it for
Well, I
discussion.
mean, I don't know, we got, I mean, well, just in terms of my individual views of whether we should add it, is that it seems that it's not there for a reason.
I guess,
Now,
Tony, can you
Is there
Right.
a reason?
shed light?
So, I mean, what I would think, first off, is that warrant article is gonna be there anyways, 13 and 14. And if we go and we put $4,800 in there, from the voters' perspective, we're saying, you know, could you please fund this warrant article? Oh, but if you say no, we're putting this in anyways. You know, it seems like we're, in a sense, we'd be double dealing the taxpayer, right? Now, I lost my train of thought.
So I think my comment is, at this point, because the warrant articles are already written, that if you put in money into that Pawtuckaway Lake Advisory line, then you've got a double amount now, because that warrant article has to go. Whether it gets voted on or not is a different story, but then you're now suddenly, if it does get voted on, now you're giving the citizens an additional $4,800 tax impact.
If I may respond to both those points. First of all, if we put $4,800 into line 20, it will become a regular part of our annual budget, and taking care of this, you know, lake milfoil inspections, all that, will become a town-supported program as a part of our annual budget. And I'm willing to bet that the people who petitioned the article will withdraw their petitioned article once they see the town cares enough about this program to put it into our annual budget. That's why they put that on there, is because they don't feel like the town is supporting them.
Yeah, I don't think it's safe to make that assumption.
No.
But I guess at
No.
town meeting, you can explain, you know, we would be voting on the
Yeah,
budget.
I mean, I would wanna hear their explanation at town meeting. But the fact, I mean, the reason we bring this warrant article to the voters every year is to let the town decide. And the town has voted for it. The town has never voted it down, to my knowledge, never. So it is important to the town, and we let the voters say so directly. If we put money into the regular operating budget for that, it's like the selectmen are saying, we're gonna do this, whether the townspeople want it or not.
Well, you're protecting Pawtuckaway Lake, just like you have the police department, the fire department. These are protective measures that should be part of our annual budget. That's why we have an annual budget, is to take care of the health and safety and public good.
Well, in a sense it
But you
is.
got $1 in that category, so that's why they petitioned that article.
All right, well, remember, that's
There's
just
an
a place.
adversarial position, situation.
The dollar amount, though, only denotes that they have the liberty to spend money in that category. It doesn't, that's the only, that's the reason it's there. It holds that line item so that you can spend money in that category. If you put $0 in that amount, then that line item disappears and you can't spend money in that category.
But if you look at this budget, it's worth $1 a year. That's what we're saying. This is worth $1 a year.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
it's
you're
worth
missing the point.
$10,000 or
It's a placeholder that allows us to spend money for that purpose if, in the event
When?
that
Yeah.
the warrant article didn't pass and something happened at the lake, if we had a milfoil bloom, then this dollar placeholder would legally allow us to spend money for that purpose that already had a budgeted amount. That's what it's for.
That's just like a
that's your-
statutory
It's a statutory
requirement
thing,
that
it's a
you have.
placeholder,
I
it's a
understand what
plan
you're
B.
saying.
But that doesn't mean that it's
$10,000
not important.
The $10,000 a year that we're putting towards protecting our bodies of water is for all the water, lake, and I think rivers too is a body of water here in Nottingham. And we have a specific program to protect Pawtuckaway Lake from invasive species. It's a very successful program. And as part of, Pawtuckaway Lake is a part of the town of Nottingham, we should have it in our budget, our annual budget, to support that program that's protecting such an important resource. Right now, we don't have it in our annual budget. It's
We
a
do. We
petition
have a
warrant
reserve
article
fund.
every year.
We have a reserve
I
fund.
think it's important, though, that the 4,800 doesn't address the milfoil that's in the lake. It is a preventative program to prevent further invasive species. So that is not addressing the existing milfoil. It's
Right, but
only
remember,
the-
Boat inspection.
it's not just Nottingham that's playing a part, that's just our slice of it.
I know, oh, I understand
There
that.
there are other entities that are working on this besides us.
But if that
That's just our
4,800 goes
contribution.
away, then that's our, our town contribution goes away from
Yeah.
that program.
The concern I have about the warrant article is that.
Which one?
The 4,800.
Okay.
So it sounds as though past practice has been that the programming costs come out of the $10,000.
Correct.
Okay. And if we add an additional 4,800 per the warrant article, you're losing cohesion in terms of how the funds are managed. So you're gonna have different parties now doing things that maybe aren't consistent. I would be more inclined to try to get the 4,800 into the budget. That way you have consistent management of it as opposed to not having that through the warrant article.
All right.
And it's an acknowledgement that this program is important to our town, because it's gonna be in our budget.
Yeah.
We don't have, once again, the fact that they petitioned it means they're not getting that message.
I think the fact that we bring this warrant article to the town every year and it's voted for positively every year is quite a strong statement of support
Why not
and
have,
importance.
$4,800 is not much, why not have that little bit as part of our annual budget?
Again, it's the board's desire for things like this to bring it directly to the taxpayers and let them decide.
Michael?
I'm guessing that the select board uses the warrant article instead of the budget line item, because this is a specific community that they're protecting, okay? There are a lot of people that really don't care what goes on Lake Pawtuckaway. May not realize the impact that degradation of that lake would have on their own taxes. But this gives everybody an opportunity to explain to town meeting why this is important. And like's been said, it's never failed that people support that. But to have a line item in your budget that is specifically targeted to a community within the town, I think might be a little bit too compartmentalized.
Well, it's not a community, it's a lake, it's like a major resource of the town of Nottingham. And it's like, most people, I think, enjoy that lake, and I'm not sure who, and I'm not sure how many people drive up and down these roads. We want to spend I never drive down these roads. But once again, it's within our town boundaries, it's a resource for everybody. And if we want to protect that Pawtuckaway Lake, it's very important for us to encourage and support this boat inspection program. And it should be reflected in our annual budget, and our leaders should be clearly in support of it. And to be honest with you, the history of the Pawtuckaway Lake Improvement Association has been hat in hand. Every year we have to go out with our dues, we have to go out begging for money, we write grants, and we're doing better writing grants than the town of Nottingham. I was gonna point that out on our revenue thing, but that's another discussion. We need to write more grants. But anyways, it's hat in hand, and now they finally have a very successful program protecting Pawtuckaway Lake. And it's like, we can't give them $4,800 a year to our town budget for a ongoing program? It's a slap in the face to them. And like I say, the fact that they have all.
What about the
don't know how-
10,000 they're getting?
That's not they're getting, that's for all the bodies of water, that's the selectmen's, up to the selectmen how that money is spent. This 4,800 would be part of the Pawtuckaway Lake inspection program.
As far as I know, no other body of water in town has got the benefit of that money. So it's been all Pawtuckaway.
Well, maybe if we put it here, we could do 5,000, well, that 10,000 a year is still good, but like I said, this petitioned article, I think they would withdraw the petitioned article, and they would appreciate the support if the town budgeted $4,800 a year for this very important program.
But I think it might be better taken up in 19, because the warrants are already there in 18. So if we have 2 warrants and then we add a line item, 18 kind of looks confusing. I mean, maybe just better coordination between the petitioners and everyone for 19, so that it's consistent and clear and not
Oh, you mean 2000?
2019, yes,
Said
sorry.
19.
No, we're at 19,
And that's a
sorry.
scenario to
And
consider
turn
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, next
we-
year, just decide where it should be, but for this year, because the warrants are already done, are we adding more confusion by having a third place?
Right.
I think so. I think.
And then we invite the scenario, if we have that 4,800 as a line item in the budget, and both Articles 13 and 14 pass, now you're talking $20,000. You know, and, I mean.
I agree. and
Not
I
to
think-
say that it couldn't be used, but that's a much bigger chunk than anyone had planned on.
Yeah, it's overkill.
Well, it seems to me that everyone agrees that Pawtucket Way is really important.
Oh, absolutely.
It, you know, and that was, you know, a bit of my concern in just looking at the warrant articles and the way the selectmen voted. And I have to trust that you know more about the way the system works. I'm sure you know more about the way the system works than I do, and what is the best way to protect Pawtucket Way Lake within that system. But the naive part of me is, well, what if they do vote it down? That, no, we don't want the $10,000. And then you put in the money for Pawtucket Way after that, and you do it anyway? To me, that's saying, well, we're gonna do it really, we're gonna figure out another way to do it since you didn't vote for it. I agree that we shouldn't do it this year, that there's just too many angles with it, but going into the default in that 2019 budget, then I think it's really worthy of discussion. But I do think you're playing with fire a tiny bit of leaving it in the warrant. And in the event they do vote it down, as unlikely as that is.
And you see how much time and discussion and controversy is caused here tonight. It's gonna happen at town meeting the same way, and we have a whole lake association that feels like, you know, they're not getting supported by the town. And from what I can see, that's true.
So, and the issue I'm having with it right now is like Les said, we all support Pawtucket Way Lake. We all love it. We all know that it's a huge asset to the town and the community. The question I have is not knowing the reason for the article, because as far as I know, from the years that I've been on the budget committee and been in town, they have never not been funded. So why are they suddenly coming around saying that, or you're saying that they're not being funded and that they need these specific funds?
Well, obviously, because they want them, and they want them,
But why do they want them? Do they want them because they want to be able to spend them however they please, or do they want them
if
because
you look at
they
the
don't want to
petitioned
ask the
article-
selectmen? I don't understand the purpose of it,
The
and so that's
purpose
why, at this point, I have a really difficult time funding that particular line, and I lean towards what Jen and Les are saying, and is working towards doing that for the next year. Not to avoid some of the confusion and so on.
well, it wouldn't be hard to add $4,800 to the budget this year if we cared that much.
Can I
My
ask,
opinion.
how is this warrant article, I understand it was a citizen warrant article? How is it presented? Was it an anonymous? Was it just written
Just
in? Did
as
somebody?
is, as far as I know.
No, but I mean, how did it,
You gotta get
Yeah.
25 signatures and you bring it in and have it certified, and then,
okay,
And
so
it's-
you don't have to present to the board, you don't have to.
you don't have to, it certainly helps.
Yeah, if the petitioners
Answers
were
these
here, that would.
Right.
Okay,
Certainly
that's
help.
what I was wondering,
But
is
we
did any-
had no
no
they
opportunity
didn't
to discuss
explanation,
this?
no
And
presentation.
you didn't call anybody and ask you, why not call somebody and
It's
ask?
their responsibility, if you're a
No,
petitioner
I
and
think
you
the
put your
selectmen are
signature.
the leaders, it's their responsibility.
You know
No,
what the
no, it
select
doesn't, no, it
meetings
doesn't
are.
work like that.
Their responsibility to
It's-
communicate with the people and groups of in
What,
Nottingham.
Chris, what day did that petition arrive?
I don't know, there was a flurry at the end, I don't know. Petitions don't have a point birthday by definition, they have 25 people have signed
Right.
the petition.
I think there's a lead petitioner. There's somebody who's the lead petitioner on it.
No, it's a-
Well, I
Might
think
be
so.
the
Some of
first,
some of
first
them
name on the list,
stayed
just
in the
because.
act itself, but, there's just 25 people that agree that this ought to be on the ballot or on the warrant. That's all it's saying. Sometimes it's a more orchestrated effort than that, sometimes it isn't.
Was it just 25 signatures?
I don't know, it was at least 25, it was certified by the town clerk.
Okay.
So they're given to the town clerk makes sure that they have the requisite number of citizen or resident or voter signatures, whichever the law says.
Right.
Town clerk certifies that it qualifies, hands it to us, and we type it in. That's how it works.
All right. So, to restate the motion was to add $4,799 to line 20 of the proposed town budget. Do we have a vote whether to accept that line item or that change?
All in favor?
All in favor?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. All against?
Although I appreciate the discussion.
All right. The motion passes to not fund line 20 of the budget for the Pawtuckaway Lake Advisory Committee this particular year. So, all right. Page 2. Do we have any recommended changes, additions, deletions? No comments or changes. Going on to page 3. Any changes to page 3? No changes, moving on to page 4. Any changes to page 4? Having no changes, page 5. Any changes or adjustments to page 5? Having none, page 6.
I have a question regarding the replacement of the fire hydrant. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around
Of
why.
which one?
The hydrant maintenance, line 208.
Okay.
Am I on the wrong page?
Oh, you're right.
Nope, you're right.
Line
Still trying to
208.
get my head around why a warrant or why not a warrant for individual items like this. So, I mean, here's like a one-time kind of thing. Is this something that you vote on in a warrant versus putting it in the budget? And this is just more of my curiosity than anything else.
I think it's required.
Yeah.
I think
It's a safety hazard.
It's a public
sa-
safety thing.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if the
Okay.
voters turn it down, then.
That's kind of what I
Then what do you
figured.
do?
That's kind of what I figured. Okay, all right.
All right, any other questions, comments on page 6? Moving on, page 7.
I have one motion I'd like to make on page 7, and that's to remove the $65,200 from line 263, highway miscellaneous, for the purchase of a one-ton truck and plow. That's why we have a capital improvement plan, and that is not a miscellaneous expense, that's a truck. So I would suggest I would move that we remove that, and then let them address that as part of their capital improvement plan.
It is on the improvement plan.
Right, well, then it should come out of,
The capital improvement plan is not a funding mechanism, that's just a forecasting mechanism.
how are we gonna buy the fire truck? Doesn't that come out of the capital reserve?
That comes out of the
Doesn't come
capital
out of
reserve
CIP,
fund,
It comes out of the capital reserve
not the
fund.
capital improvement
Right,
plan.
but shouldn't all vehicle purchases come out of the capital reserve fund? I mean,
Capital
They
reserve fund.
should, they could, I don't know that they should, and I don't, the current capital reserve fund for the, highway maintenance, department is not at a position at this time to be able to purchase that vehicle, and they need that vehicle now.
and I don't think it's a miscellaneous, I think it's a capital purchase.
It was listed, the capital improvement program, unlike a city where you have a capital improvement program and that really becomes embedded in your future budgeting and so forth. This one, for the town, has a 7-year life and it's primarily a list. But I do believe that they surfaced this in the capital improvement program in prior years, so it has been out there and there has been visibility placed to it, and this is the year that they're determining if they wish to go to budget with it. Is that correct?
I believe so. Is that, yeah, that's correct.
I had a similar, thought. I don't have any issues with the budget. But, I mean, this is a foreseeable expense. Is there not an accrual method of each and every year, even though you may not spend the money this year, but you're accruing it, because in a few years, you're gonna have to buy a truck.
Isn't that what
We
Article
have
10
a-
is?
And you put in $20,000 a year, every year.
Yeah, it's the
to-
highway vehicle capital reserve fund.
Article 10 is to put 75,000 into that.
So we underspent that line, is that, we.
So that, yeah, we're gonna ask the voters to deposit that money in that capital reserve
see.
fund this year.
I see.
And this vehicle is the type of thing that comes out of that fund.
Well, no, it's coming out of
But it's
our,
not coming out of that fund.
It's not
We
coming
put it in
out
the
of
operating
Correct.
budget.
Is this an offsetting revenue type thing from the no?
No.
No, this is a situation where the capital reserve fund
Which line is that?
has not been funded
So
for
there's
every
a separate
single
article to
truck
put money into
purchase.
that fund, but
Right.
it's not
Been
coming
funded
out
a
of
set amount every year to have a majority of the funds available. And we will come across an occasion where the next big truck doesn't have enough funds too, but it'll have almost enough funds, so we'll supplement it with the operating budget.
Right.
And that's the situation here. We haven't built up the capital reserve fund fast enough to cover all truck expenditures.
well, then why isn't this a warrant article request, rather than being a budget item that's gonna increase that line by 32,500%? Doesn't that sound kinda silly? It should be a warrant article then. It shouldn't be as part of an operating budget. An operating budget is annual expenses, things you expect to pay for every year as part of your normal course of business. Buying vehicles is not an operating budget item.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, think of it in terms of wants and needs. Things that are the wants, right? As a generalization, you can end up as a warrant article, but things you need, you've got to put in your operating budget. And in this case, the highway department needs that truck.
It's not a $700,000 purchase, it's a $6,500 truck.
65,000.
I'm sorry, 65,000, you're right.
Yeah, that's
But well,
So by having it in this item, next year when you come to highway miscellaneous, is it gonna go down by 32,500%? Now,
probably,
doesn't that not make sense?
It does make sense, and that's why there is a fund for it. It's just that the fund does not have the necessary funds in it in order to make this purchase. So the highway department needs this in order to maintain the roads that we have in town, and that's why they have to purchase this vehicle.
Then it
There's
should
no
be a
line
warrant.
item that we have every year for buying a vehicle, because we don't buy vehicles every year.
Should
We
be a
buy-
warrant.
It's part of the capital improvement plan.
Exactly.
And it will create a cycle. Once this truck is purchased, it will create a cycle that then in, however, I don't know what the lifespan of these utility trucks are, 5 years, 6 years, whatever it is, then we will be able to fund that, or put monies into that fund in order to absorb the cost of that future truck.
Well, my point is, if this truck is so necessary, they should have put it in as a warrant article, just like we did our fire truck. They shouldn't just be
The
slipping it
fire
in.
truck only has a very small portion of it as a warrant article. The majority of the fire truck is already in a capital reserve fund.
Exactly, and that's where this should
Because
be.
we planned on it years ago, knowing that this purchase was going to come up. This purchase was not planned on, we were not aware of the need of this purchase at the time. Had we known this 2 years ago, we could have funded that particular fund.
No, I understand what you're saying. I just disagree with the budget process. A truck should not be part of your annual operating budget. It should be part of your capital improvement.
Used to be that police cruisers were warrant articles every year,
And why aren't they now?
because it was such an ongoing expense that they just decided it would be easier to put them in the budget.
You know, any vehicles, you need to plan on what you need, figure out their useful life, and make sure you're building up your reserve funds to cover
So
them.
what do you do when you have a police department that puts a vehicle on the warrant article and the community decides that they don't want the police department to have a vehicle?
Well, isn't that what we do?
No,
Well, I mean, they approved the money for safety vehicles, they put it so much aside for them.
But you can't have a police department without vehicles.
But the highway
You can't have a
department,
highway department without a truck.
but don't they have highway reserve funds to buy vehicles?
They do, it's just underfunded.
Well, then that's what we have to address, not sticking it into some line item in the
We can
operating
do that
budget.
for future.
And we're doing it now with the 75,000 that's going in. I think
Yeah.
we're correcting the problem, but we
Want to put
can't
another
do anything
5,000
about
into it every
the
year,
past.
Okay, if that's the
Yeah,
way
I
you
mean-
wanna handle these things. I think it's a-
shortchanging the highway department
It's
isn't
proper.
gonna fix that.
Well, I think, like I
They
said,
need
they
the truck, you know, it's a life cycle replacement.
shouldn't be here.
Where do you think it should be?
Either as a warrant article or as a capital, you know.
But if people
So-
voted down, then
Increase
what do
the
you?
funding by
then how do
Right,
you
if
50,000
you,
a
if you make it a
year.
warrant
Maintain
article,
the
you're
roads.
making it optional, and it's not optional, which is why it's in the operating budget.
Right,
It's
they're-
needed.
They're operating right now without it.
No,
No, they've got the old truck, that's at
Exactly.
the end of its
falling
life
apart.
cycle.
it's,
Okay, anyways, I think I've dragged out long enough. Do it your way.
all right, so, the motion was to remove the $65,000 from the highway miscellaneous line 263, and,
I
all
don't
in,
think there was a second.
There wasn't a
oh, there
second.
wasn't a second? So we'll
We
just.
discussed it anyway.
We discussed it anyway, right.
We can take a vote on it.
We can take a vote on it. All in favor of removing the $65,000 from line 263 of the proposed budget? All oppose? Thank you. Any further items on page 7? Having none, moving on to page 8. Any changes to page 8? Having none, page 9. Any changes to page 9? All right. total proposed budget for 2018 is $3,743,642. Do I have a motion to accept the total proposed budget of $3,743,642?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of accepting, or we go to discussion? Anybody have anything to discuss about the total? All in favor of approving the budget amount of $3,743,642? All oppose? The motion passes 8-1 to approve the proposed budget for 2018 of $3,743,000, $743,642. Moving on to the, where did it go? Revenue sheet.
I move that the Budget Committee accept the revenue sheet as presented.
Second.
Any discussion regarding the revenue sheet? All right, no discussion. All in favor of accepting the estimated revenues in the amount of, I'm gonna read the subtotal of the operating revenues, the amount of $1,687,550. I guess we should just go through the transfers as well, right? All in, the subtotal of transfers is $557,700. Any, all in favor of accepting the subtotal of transfers? The grand total of revenues is estimated to be $2,245,250. All in favor of accepting the grand total of revenues? Unanimous. Thank you. On to warrant articles. I will cover all the warrant articles that have a budgetary impact, and that the Budget Committee needs to vote and recommend. So, Article 2, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $650,000 for the engineering, design, and highway construction and reconstruction on Ledge Farm Road or other roads in Nottingham if a priority arises, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $650,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the municipal officials to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest therein. The estimated tax impact is unknown at this time per $1,000 of property valuation, starting in 2019. A 2/3 ballot vote is required. The select board recommends this appropriation 4-0. Do I have a motion to accept the article as read?
I don't understand when you say accept it, is
Need
that?
to recommend it.
Recommend.
I have some questions about this, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Should we do the motion first?
Do the motion.
Is that what you meant, was
Yeah.
the motion to recommend it?
Yeah, motion to, well,
It's to recommend, yeah.
to recommend. yeah.
Well, I can't
Okay.
recommend it prior to my questions being answered, so how do we manage this?
Well, you make
We're
the
just putting the
motion,
motion
which,
on the table.
in a second, and then you have discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, no, I'm good with
So
that.
do I have a motion to recommend the article as written, or as read?
So moved.
Les, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Les?
Well, questions about, on the others, there's a dollar value given in terms of what it means for our property taxes. And on this one, it doesn't, and I don't understand that.
My understanding is that it doesn't, because we don't know what the rate, the interest rate is going to be, and therefore what the total dollar amount is going to be as far as an impact, so.
Because it won't have an impact until 2019, so we would have to know the
And you
property
won't-
values.
yeah. The
So on
property
Article
values would be
4,
different.
on Article 4, it's going to be immediate, so that's why it has a
Right.
dollar value attached to it. Okay,
It's
gotcha.
up to 650,000.
They
Okay,
don't
gotcha.
They don't have an
know what the
exact
cost
dollar
will
amount.
be.
Chris?
We could, I mean, it's just an estimate, I could probably give you a number to put in there, but we don't know the interest rate, we don't know terms of any borrowing, we don't know the tax base in
Right.
2019, but, if you want a number for that, I can gin one up.
I guess just
No,
in
that's
terms
okay.
of ballpark, I'm concerned about the tax impact starting in 2019, like just ballpark wise.
But don't you also need to know the valuation, the 2019 valuation?
Right,
And
that's the other, that's the other.
that's the
ballpark.
crystal
I don't
ball.
think we should put the number in the article.
It shouldn't
I
be in the
just-
No,
warrant.
but
It'd be
just for
helpful to know, Are we
discussion.
talking about, you
You're
know,
talking about
$1 or $2? How much?
12 cents.
Just, you have to,
Oh, that went flying.
Now you have to get in front of the TV.
12 cents. If the
There
100,
she is.
oh, thank you. My one appearance.
depending on interest rates or something like that. I don't know if it's allowed. Because that is confusing just with the dollar and the stars, you know.
Yeah, no, that, the setting of that tax rate estimate is the responsibility of the board. So we can discuss how we want to present that.
Okay.
That you have to have something. If town meeting told you you have to have something, you have to decide, you as a board have to decide what it is. And I think you might come to say, we take a guess at what it would be in 19, but nothing in 18. We can do
So
something.
we just need, the language needs to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah.
Is that something we can get advice from DRA on?
Yeah.
It's not the first time they've
We're
seen
not
this.
first to face that, certainly.
But it'll make a big difference whether it's a 5-year bond or a 10-year bond or a year bond.
Right, so that was an extra 12 cents for how many years?
That's a
The
10.
the idea of estimating a tax impact is so fraught with errors that we can pick which errors we want to make.
All right, so, but it's very different than Article 4 in terms of its
Because
approach
it's
to
bonded.
what it's gonna do.
But just to give you a rough order of magnitude, a 10-year bond, 650,000, is gonna be about 12 cents.
Okay, no, I got it, that helps, it's very helpful.
That's principal and interest?
Correct.
Okay. I know when the school did it, the first year was interest only, and so the warrant was carrying the interest only piece, and that does get very confusing quickly, because then you have principal and interest following. So,
And then on this, I'm a little torn, in terms of how I want to vote on this. From me personally, I like Ledge Road just exactly the way it is. And of the people that bought property on Ledge Road, it was a dirt road when they bought property probably, and this is what they bought into. That's just my own personal perspective. But then again, I'm not here representing me, I'm here hopefully representing the community. The people that live on Ledge Road totally get that some of them are gonna really feel passionate about wanting it paved, and maybe some are passionate about not wanting it paved. I don't know, but I have to believe that there's a lot of people that go down Ledge Road maybe once a year, that they'd rather not pay for it out of their pocket, they'd rather the people that use it pay for it out of their pocket. So I'm a little torn in terms of representing the community on this. So can you tell me, if we just decide not to do this, what does that mean for the community as a whole? We just decide not to do anything with Ledge Road other than keep it up the way we keep up all the other dirt roads in there, that make up a large portion of Nottingham and add to the appeal of Nottingham, as far as I'm concerned.
I guess another way to phrase it is, why is this one your number one on the list of roads that should be paved?
Traffic volume, right?
I mean, I wanted to hear Chris's explanation.
We're all looking at you.
But it's not just traffic volume. I mean, is it the condition of the road? Is it the safety? Like, what are the reasons?
Yes. Condition, the amount of work we have to do to maintain it. You know, that, if you drove it last spring, you know, it was muddier than most. So we sink a lot of time and energy into it. It carries more traffic, as far as we can tell, it carries much more traffic than any other gravel road in town.
And the number's higher than you would think.
It's about as busy as one stretch of Freeman Hall Road. Freeman Hall Road, which goes to the recycling center. It's that same order of magnitude. It's at 500 or 600 trips a day. The break-even point, I think it's a hard number to pin down, but the studies that we've seen are the break-even point for maintaining gravel versus the cost of paving over the life of a road. It starts to make sense to pave at around 200 or 300 trips a day. This road's at 600 trips a day, 500 trips a day. That's just gonna we expect that's gonna get bigger. That's now a main road to Epic. Epic keeps growing. Things have changed in Epic, and that's created changes in our traffic pattern. So it's a combination of all those things. Paving any gravel road will make it safer, will make it a little faster, will make it cheaper to maintain.
Making it faster is a little concerning.
Especially that S-turn.
And busier, it'll make it a lot busier,
But
a lot faster.
remember, that's a
More
policing
dangerous.
problem, not a paving problem.
Well, I guess part of my question is there any plan to widen the section that's particularly windy and has blind spots?
There's no land acquisition, there's no, we're gonna do essentially the same width of the pavement that's on the paved section now. We're not moving, we're trying not to cut down trees, we're trying not to make it a bigger road, we're just trying to make it a better road.
And do you have an option of not paving the entire stretch and just paving the stretches that need it the most?
Yeah, we talked about doing it in chunks, and the whole length of it is carrying about the same amount of traffic. So you get past on either side of Poor Farm, the traffic counts change. It's busier after Poor Farm on the way out of town. The condition of the road is worse before Poor Farm Road. So which chunk do you do in which order? It's probably up for debate. But the problem with breaking it up is if you're going to do it, you should do it all at once and do it as, with as little disruption and as at least lowest cost that you can. We talked a lot about splitting it over 2 years instead of borrowing.
Yeah, I meant more in terms of a certain portion of the road is worse than others in terms of the amount of upkeep that's required for it versus another section of the road which really doesn't require that much upkeep. Is that not the way it is? The entire road needs about the same amount of upkeep?
No, I think that it's worse. I mean, the condition and the amount of time and energy we spent is probably worse. We don't have any data on this, but it's worse around the corner before Poor Farm. But at some point, you lose the benefit of, if you're still sending the grader out to the farthest point of town, to maintain that, it still costs you a bunch to maintain the road.
Yeah.
When the last portion of it is gravel, you're still doing gravel work on it every year, every season.
Yeah.
Because the Epping portion's paved, so it's just our, it would just be our little section.
I
that's
see.
not-
Are we, so, up to the Epping line, is that paved? The Epping-
Yes.
The Epping side.
When you
And like dirt
get
all the way
from dirt
down?
to pavement, you've reached Epping.
Okay, I'm one of the once-a-year travelers on that road. so-
Yeah, I am too.
I
And
have no
And I love
idea.
traveling when I do, because it's just so pretty, you know.
But had you driven down there
driven
on
bad weather.
Super Bowl Sunday, you would have been white knuckling it all over the place because it was just a big sheet
I
of
live on
clear
a dirt
ice.
road.
You live on a dirt road,
I
you're well
gotcha.
aware,
Yeah.
for whatever
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, I do too. I love my dirt road.
Dirt roads turn into a sheet of ice
Yeah.
when you get those types of storms, and the paved roads don't.
Yeah.
Well, I think Nottingham does, at least on the dirt roads that I've lived on here, and I've lived on two, Shore and Dolph Dam, I think you do a fantastic job on keeping the roads passable and movable. I'm really impressed with it, you know, so I'm thinking, hey, that's as good as our road. I love our road. But, you know, it's not about me. So, I mean, to me, it comes down to it, given how the passion that I was hearing here and the second-class citizen attitudes of one road being paved and not mine, it seems like we probably do need some kind of formula for you reach a certain threshold of when it makes sense to pave a road. And if you've not met that threshold, then sorry, but you haven't, you know, but we need to kind of know what that threshold is. It sounds like you clearly believe Ledge Farm meets that threshold.
Yeah, we don't have a line over which, you know, this particular condition of the road or this number of cars. I think, if you did set such a threshold, many of our gravel roads would be over it. You know, if from a financial point of view, I recognize that there's an emotional and scenic,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
component of this. I can't help you with that. I can just.
No, really, it's just dollars and cents.
If the break-even point is 200, 300, 400 trips a day, we have a number of gravel roads. Financially, it would make more sense to have them as asphalt.
And it's more complex than that, right?
But this one is clearly the busiest. We hear about it the
Yeah.
most. We're constantly working on it.
Okay.
And that's the thing that you can't plug into a formula, is how much you're working on it, how many times the town guys have to go out there and take care of things.
Right.
And where the break-even is, what the, you know, advantages for the cost savings.
And we discussed the intangible costs, you know, wear and tear on the grader, for example, or wear and tear on the personal vehicles of not just the people that live in those neighborhoods, but that, you know, that travel the road. You know, I don't go down there very often either. But, you know, I've been down that road in the spring and summer, you know, after a heavy rain, where my truck, I got a four-wheel drive truck, and it's sinking 4-6 inches into the mud, and I gotta put in four-wheel drive to make sure I can get out of there. I've been down there in the summer when it's dry, and I love a beautiful country road as much as the next fella. But when everything is gray with dust, the leaves aren't even green, and you can't even see the field through the trees because of the lingering dust cloud of the guy that traveled down the road ahead of you. There's no beauty there. And then the health and safety, right, factor, the dust. I mean, I have family members with breathing conditions, and I know for a fact that some of the infections that you can get from that dust can be fatal to people with certain conditions. So, granted, I don't travel those roads a lot, but I've got to think of the health and safety of my fellow citizens when, you know, considering that.
I have a lot of concerns about this article, and I'll start with that first one. Maybe if they use gravel instead of sand when they're working on our roads, they wouldn't be so muddy, and they do that on Whites Grove Road. If they have a place, they put sand down, they don't use gravel, and like you say, we have that same experience sometimes.
We have the sand and it's
So
free.
I think there's a road maintenance discussion to be had here, but I'm gonna skip that for now. I have a number of concerns about this, and just in general. I mean, when you pave a road, do cars drive faster? Yes. Is there more traffic? Yes. Does it change the character of the neighborhood? Yes. Does it change the character of Nottingham? Yes. This is a small town We have country roads, we have gravel road, well, sand and gravel roads, which should be better maintained, in my opinion. And if we start paving roads, we're gonna be paving roads every year.
That is
This one, that one, this one, that, we're gonna be hopscotching all over town. It's gonna change the character of the town. It's gonna speed up growth, because once you have paved roads, there's gonna be more houses built. It's gonna put pressure on the schools. I think we're opening up a big can of worms if we support this article. It's gonna be expensive, it's gonna change Nottingham, it's gonna increase the cost of the schools, ultimately the taxpayers, obviously. And, people are gonna drive faster. Why not just put speed limit 25 miles an hour on these roads to slow people down so they're safer? Why not buy some gravel when we're repairing these roads instead of using our town sand? Why not, better management of our scenic roads? Like I said, and the other thing I was gonna say is I've been in communities where people want to improve the road, they did a betterment assessment. If the people on that road wanna pave it, let them have a community meeting, let them vote to do it, and let them do betterment assessments, because their property is gonna be enhanced by paving that road. Like I said, I think this article opens up a big can of worms, and once again, I think the approach is short-sighted. We should do a town-wide study, engineering, what do we need to do for repair? Do we just have to pave over any place we don't wanna maintain anymore? And are we gonna be reducing our highway department as we pave roads? No. So like I said, I think it's gonna push property taxes way up, it's gonna change the whole town, it's gonna affect the schools, it's gonna affect development, more houses, more building. I think we need to think this one through, instead of just going along to get along.
Well, and I think, I think I raised the issue before, is that it's almost like a planning. How does this fit within the planning committee's vision of Nottingham and where they want Nottingham to be in 30 years?
Where's the master plan? Yeah.
And does this fit in it? Is this all part of the master plan? Or is it, well, we don't really like this road and we want to pave it? Well, I agree with you. It's bigger than just do we pave this road? And I don't know the answer to it. It's not a good guy, bad guy thing of paving, not paving. It's just a big decision. And there's a lot of people that don't use the road, but they're still gonna have to pay for it just as much as the people that use it every day and live on it. And are gonna have their property value go up.
And when we have those cars speeding up and down that Ledge Farm Road and people's kids are out there on bikes, are they gonna be glad it's a paved road?
Nobody's on Ledge
There's
Farm Road
nobody on bikes over there.
Well, it's because it's already, if it's paved.
I just have a,
Dogs and cats inside too.
yeah, I just have a brief comment. I hear all of this, and it certainly is a big decision. I would just point out that the road from Route 156 in is already paved. So, and that's nicely done.
But wasn't that done because of the development that was going there?
May have gone up to it, I'm not sure how far
Goes up
it
to the
goes.
Rocky Hill.
Yeah. I can tell you, as the school district, we oftentimes have requests for bus stops and so forth, and that we do have many, this is the road we hear about most, and the buses cannot get through it. So there's a point there where it's not safe for the buses to go any further. So as a result, we have cars parked on the side of it with people driving their kids in. And again, that's not the only reason to pave a road. I just mention it, that the road has been raised. It washes out, the buses can't get across. So there are some safety concerns on that. And again, I haven't been part of the conversation about why it was prioritized, but I do feel that they talk through these things at the CIP, and they have a decent list of the roads and the estimates for the dates as to when they feel they'll address them. So I know this one has a particularly treacherous twist and turn and hill, and it washes out, and buses can't go through.
Question, why is this a 2/3 vote for Article 2 and a majority vote on Article 4?
One is a bond requires the 2/3.
And it'll be on the ballot as opposed to a town meeting.
I see, so one is a bond and the other is not?
No.
It will be voted.
Oh, my bad.
Okay, so that's a paper ballot. Okay, anyway, you've addressed my questions, thank you.
Can I just make a couple other comments? One is, yes, maybe this is bigger than just this road, but that discussion should be somewhere other than budget committee. That discussion should be select board, planning board. Budget
Town-
committee is dealing with the budget of the
Town meeting,
request.
yeah.
And I would say that if Chris tells us that at a certain point, a road becomes more expensive to maintain than in its unpaved condition, then the budget committee, being fiscally responsible, should be looking at, okay, how do we reduce the cost of that road? And yes, it's a big hit up front, but if we bond it over a few years, it's not a tremendous impact on any one given year. I think what they've proposed here is pretty responsible. And the other comment that I wanted to make, and this is totally irrelevant, so treat it as such, but I come from afar. And I've been here almost 20 years, but when people from out west come to visit and they say, you guys have been working on this place for 300 years and you haven't got the road paved yet? Told you it was irrelevant.
Yeah.
Never mind.
My only comment is that, the timing is everything, but I would have liked to see the responses, the questions, the concerns, and the comments from all of the people that are going to be at the meeting on the 25th of this month to discuss this particular item, so that I would be more educated on the needs of all those that it affects more than me, because I drive it, but I drive it infrequently, so, and I love driving dirt roads, so I don't care whether it's paved or not. But again, I'm with you on the, we need to fiscally look at this, and I'm also concerned for the safety of everybody, so.
What's the meeting on the 25th?
What's the meeting?
We have to
It
have
is
a
the
public hearing.
on this particular bond.
On a Saturday? Is that a Saturday? Or, I looked at the wrong day on the calendar.
That's a Sunday, the
Sunday?
25th?
That's a Sunday.
What
Oh,
day
then
is
it's
it,
the
Chris?
26th.
26th of February?
Oh, the Monday, okay.
26th. Yeah. All
Is
right.
that gonna be at the selectmen's meeting, or? Come to that.
All right, so, good discussion. Do I have a, motion?
You already have one.
Oh, yeah, I have a motion.
You had a motion and a second to open discussion.
Do I have a, vote? All in favor of recommending, Article 2 as written?
We have the option
Thank you. Abstain?
You can abstain.
I can see how this is going.
I mean, not abstain, against,
Opposed?
sorry.
I think there's a
Opposed.
trend here.
I was
Opposed,
gonna say, do I have
Opposed?
the option
Yeah.
to abstain?
I'm one of those againers.
yeah.
You
Peter
can- you
White
can
opposed,
abstain.
so-
Carrie's asking if
I
she
would
could
like to
abstain.
abstain,
You can abstain.
because quite honestly,
You know, I mean, the way that I look at it, as if I were on the select board, I'm not sure I'd say yes. But as a member of the budget committee, which is where I am, I'm saying yes.
and I
Because I'm
completely
looking at it from
understand
that perspective.
both sides, my son's the one on the, my boys are the ones on the bus going down this road, so I understand that, I see both sides, I just want the majority to make the decision on it.
And you're not making a decision.
exactly.
You're just
It goes
making a
to-
No, I know,
recommendation.
and that's the thing, and I'm,
Okay.
The other thing that I wonder about, and again, your guidance is important, is that, all right, the select board says 4-0. Oh, it must be slam dunk then. I should say, I should agree. And are we giving?
Everybody else does.
Are we giving that message when it is far from being a slam dunk in terms of how we feel about it? Should there be a dissenting vote of saying, this is not a slam dunk, think about this one? Does that make
And
any
it's,
sense?
yes, and I totally see what you're saying, and I think that people do look at these, especially people that don't follow the events that are going on in town and come to public meetings or watch, our fabulous TV channel and so on and so forth, that they're not educated on all the details that are involved, so when they do come to the actual ballot and they see this and they say, oh, the select board says 4-0, the budget committee says, 8-1, does that affect their vote? I think in many cases it does affect people's votes, because they're counting on us to be the ones that are educated and to be the ones that are making the right recommendations for the community as a whole.
But in this case, it'll be discussed at length at town meeting. I'm
Okay.
sure it will take hours. So-
And let me tell you too, that, the select board discussed this at many meetings, the backstory and the rationale, the pros and cons, Chris he had homework assignments for us to read all of these different, statistical, methods for, estimating and evaluating road work, and I mean, we put a lot of time into it, so, go back and read the minutes or watch the videos and, just see the discussion that went on, and then look at that 4-0 vote to see really what the scope of that truly means,
And so everybody knows too, by the way, which I was not aware of up until a couple of weeks ago, they're televised, and you can find all of those meetings on YouTube, and you can watch them on YouTube.
Yeah, there's a Nottingham channel.
Nottingham channel on
Okay.
YouTube, so you can,
Cool.
the public can go in and catch up on meetings that they missed and educate themselves prior to voting on the ballot, and like, to your point, depending on what we recommend. I mean, yes, we're probably more educated or have had, more advice than some of the voters. And I think it does make a difference. All right. Our
Final count there, Miska?
It was 8-4,
No.
1 against, and 1 abstain.
No, it should be
7-1-1.
Oh, 7, I'm sorry. Oops, yeah.
I changed, sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Vote twice?
Vote your conscience. Vote your conscience. That's my best advice. No matter which election it is.
All right, Article 3, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,743,642 for the 2018 operating budget. This article does not include appropriations voted in other special or individual warrant articles addressed in this warrant. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $3.36.1 per thousand of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 4-0. Budget committee has not recommended.
Point of order, did we already vote on this? Isn't that what we voted on earlier?
We did?
Well, we voted on the budget.
I'm sorry. Yeah. And it was unanimous, 8-1.
I know.
It was 8-1.
So I just had a clarifying question. In the school's case, we have a default budget if the operating budget is not voted in. In the town's case, what happens if this article does not pass? Do we go back to the 17 budget?
It's all done at town meeting, so they'll duke it out at town meeting until they come to an answer. They can change the amount.
Okay,
You can amend it down until you get a majority.
okay. So it just kind of keeps cycling
Or amend
through
it
if
up, right?
needed?
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that makes town meeting go very, very long.
Okay, Article 4. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 for engineering, design, and highway construction and reconstruction on Cooper Hill Road or other roads in Nottingham if a priority arises. This is a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, Roman numeral 6, and will not lapse until the work is complete or no later than 1 year after the end of fiscal year 2018, whichever occurs earlier. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 32.7 cents per thousand of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 4-0. The budget committee has not recommended this at this
I
time.
move the budget committee recommends Article 4 as read.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'm more torn on this one because I'm personally not very familiar with Cooper Hill Road, and I don't, not familiar with the issues with it, so I'm having a harder time, and just the impacts because it's a 1 year. Yep.
Yes.
In response to that, typically, the budget committee is presented with about a $200,000 warrant article for road reconstruction every year. That's been going on since Johnny was born. And it's been $200,000 every year since then too. And it's just the road department's scheduling of annual road improvement throughout the town. And they work with $200,000 every year, and this is just the next one. And since Ledge Farm being a higher priority was really a 2-year project, and they wanted to get that done in addition to this, this is the next one down the list, and they just slated this for.
I guess to that end, I think exploring the idea of, and I realize we can't do that, we can't add a warrant now, but to have a reserve fund to do that instead of doing a $200,000 separate appropriation per road every year, it, to me, would make a logical thing to look into.
So
I agree.
last year, this particular article didn't have a road tied to it,
Three
did
of
it?
them, 2 or 3 of them.
It was late.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it does every year, right?
Yes, typically, yeah, and it's liberally worded so that if something needs to change, it can change, but, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying I would necessarily vote this one down, but I just think in terms of, particularly where some years we're gonna have to bond a much bigger project, and you know, if that bond this year doesn't pass, then Ledge Farm is still out there as a high priority road that didn't pass this year. I just think long-term it would make more sense.
I had a discussion question. Has the town of Barrington said anything about paving their side of it? I mean, so that's one of my concerns, is that we're paving a road and, you know, up to a town line that'll turn dirt. And we're changing the character of the neighborhood. And why are we doing this road? Health and safety, and I think dirt roads make cars go slower. So, yeah, I can't support these specific, I mean, I agree with you. If we had a fund that we were just putting money in to maintain our roads, pave as necessary, but I think there needs to be some resident match for roads we're paving. The residents have to want it. I mean, what right do we have to go in and pave a road without the residents that live there voting on it themselves, just the people that live there? I mean, once again, this whole process I don't think is the correct way to approach it. I think the residents should have a vote on it, and I think they should share the cost.
Share the cost.
They're benefiting, yeah, you should have a betterment assessment. If you're having a dirt road paved over, it's improving your home's value. Why not kick in $2,000-3,000 per home for it?
Because it's also cutting down the maintenance costs for the town.
If the residents want it, they'll pay for it, they'll
Their-
vote on it. If
their
they don't want
value-
it, they won't.
Their valuation will change. One of the things on the appraisals is the quality of the road. And so that will, I believe, there's a grading on the valuations. So when a road is improved, those homes
So-
will,
All dirt roads are discounted in there,
Right.
and the land value is discounted
But
relative to.
so they'll pay more.
wasn't Cooper Hill brought to your attention by the residents on Cooper Hill?
Yeah, well, I think Cooper Hill is probably mixed. In terms
Mixed.
of desire to have it paved. I think Ledge Farm is the same way. We've heard from people on Ledge Farm who want it paved and desperately, and we have heard from people on Ledge Farm who don't want it paved.
Yeah, and it's not, the decisions aren't necessarily made on how many people come and speak from
Right,
August.
right.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Right.
more about what the, you know, highway department sees as priorities based on what they have to do. And then certainly the police chief will weigh in if he thinks that there are roads that are particularly dangerous as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic. I know, you know, for safety reasons alone, I was driving Poor Farm last week, and I can tell you, I mean, the ambulance would have had one heck of a time getting anywhere down that road. I mean, it was just glare ice.
Poor Farm, you said?
Poor Farm, which is off of Ledge
Yeah,
Farm.
I was on Poor Farm Road the night of the Super Bowl, and I was all over. It took everything to not end up in the ditch.
Well, why don't we throw in another 650,000 for Poor Farm as long as we're at it here? You know, and I'm sure there's another half a
let's be,
dozen roads
let's
we
be
can add.
reasonable.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, so we're gonna go one road at a time and not all the roads at once.
Well, that's what the people of the town want.
All right. All in favor of recommending Article 4 as written? Eight in favor, one opposed.
Sorry.
Article 5 has no budgetary impact, but we do have to do a recommendation. So to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $525,000 for the purpose of purchasing a new fire engine and to authorize the withdrawal of $525,000 from the fire department vehicle capital reserve fund created for this purpose. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0 per thousand of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 4-0. The budget committee has yet to recommend. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that we recommend this article.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of accepting Article 5 as written? Unanimous. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be added to the fire department vehicle capital reserve fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0.163 per thousand of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 4-0. The budget committee has not recommended at this time. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that we recommend this article.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Is there a reason that the budget committee doesn't have a line of whether they can recommend or not? We're looking at Article 6, excuse me.
No, Article 7. Article 7.
Never mind.
No discussion. Do I have a vote in favor of recommending Article 7 as written? Unanimous. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $23,700 for the purpose of purchasing the necessary fuel, supplies, equipment, and maintenance to run the ambulance and billing services for 2018, and to authorize the withdrawal of $23,700 from the ambulance and equipment replacement special revenue fund created for this purpose. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0 per thousand of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 4-0. The budget committee has not yet recommended. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion
Or to recommend?
Recommend.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I was just curious, are these operating costs or are these like one-time purchases for this?
These are entirely operating costs. The ambulance service is actually self-funded through their billing, so, and all that, all those funds go into this reserve fund, and every year they take their operating costs out of the fund.
So it comes from what they bill?
Yeah. That's why it doesn't cost anything to the taxpayers.
Thanks.
And operating cost does include supplies, equipment, etc.
All in favor of recommending Article 8 as written? Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added to the previously established capital reserve fund for the purpose of performing a statutory revaluation of property every 5 years. The next revaluation will take place in 2020. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 0.041 cents per thousand of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 4-0. The budget committee has yet to recommend. Do I have a motion to accept Article 9, or recommend Article 9? Do I have a second?
Second.
I do have a question on this one.
Yep.
What if we decide we don't want to do this? We'd rather not have our property assessed every 5 years, because all it does is raise our taxable, our taxes.
It's just a state law, isn't it?
It's what?
It's a state law, isn't it?
You can
why
fund
are
the
we
capital
voting?
reserve fund,
I know,
and
right?
pay for it out of operating budget, take a pick.
So we don't get a once every 5-year hit.
Yeah.
Now, I had a question though, does that mean it costs $125,000 to do that seems ridiculous to me. That's a lot of money for I mean, most of the properties, they just have the five years ago, and they just have to do,
They do a
what
quarter.
changes do they do? I mean,
come
most of the
out
houses
They
are the
come out and
same.
they inspect the majority of the properties.
Well, most of the
So when
properties
you're not
don't
there, they're
change.
peeking in your window and seeing your, you know.
It's very
changes that
labor
you've made.
intensive.
Well, once again, I'll go along with this one, but $125,000, somebody's making some money on this.
If you want to bid on the job,
Maybe I will.
Yeah.
go ahead.
I could do it. Okay, never mind. I'm all for it. I'm just kidding. I won't bid on it.
All right. All in favor of recommending Article 9 as written? Thank you. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 to be added to the Highway Truck Capital Reserve Fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 12.3 cents per $1,000 of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 4-0. The budget committee has yet to recommend. Do I have a motion to accept Article 10?
Motion to accept.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any
Mr. Chairman.
discussion?
Yeah, I have a point to make. It seems I've heard that we don't have enough money in our highway truck capital reserve fund to even buy a 1-ton pickup truck with a plow. So is this an adequate amount?
This is working towards the future purchase of a truck. So this is monies that are being put aside, that are gonna be put aside almost, you're probably gonna see the same thing next year and then the year after, so that we can build up, so that when the new truck is needed, then they'll be able to take the funds out of that and have a lesser impact on.
It's not working. We have to buy a truck out of our operating budget this year. So it seems to me, wasn't that because we didn't have enough money in this?
Because that fund wasn't around before.
How long have we had a highway truck capital reserve fund? I thought that's been years.
Long time. Yeah, short answer is, you're correct that the capital reserve fund is not funded for ongoing needs, as it should be. But there's a philosophical question about, do we put all our money into capital reserve funds, or do we just take the hit every now and then, as we occasionally will? So that's why it's where it is. If people thought that it's wise to have everything covered by capital reserve funds and have all the capital reserve funds funded accordingly, they'd all be a little bit higher. This one particularly would likely benefit from being higher over the course of the next several years because of the trucks they have scheduled to purchase from it.
I'll just make the point one more time, is when we're buying a truck out of a miscellaneous budget account, there's something wrong. We could either fix it here or not. There's something wrong.
Or there's a difference in opinions.
Okay, yeah. It could be that.
Like I said, there's a philosophical discussion that's often brought
Yeah,
up
I
about how much
clearly-
we do with capital reserve funds and how much we just bite the bullet when we get to it.
Well, it's a good thing we have miscellaneous accounts then, isn't it?
Your objection, I think, is an accounting objection.
It sure is.
Around the materiality of a
I
miscellaneous
used to
line.
teach financial management, which is why I'm raising these questions, and I know other people may know more than me. But once again, you shouldn't be putting a truck in a miscellaneous account. And then if you're setting up a reserve fund, that's what should be adequately funded so we can buy these vehicles. Not just stick it out of the operating budget.
Well, then when we're reviewing the
Miscellaneous
CIP,
account.
then that should be where you bring up that conversation.
I've had experiences with miscellaneous accounts, and this is not the way to use them.
We've discussed this budget
Yeah, I'm
3
sorry.
times prior,
Okay, let's move on.
you know, I'm just saying that,
I think it's the semantics of the line.
Yeah, I know.
The miscellaneous, the
miscellaneous
yeah,
labeling, you know, I understand
that's-
that.
Wait to see what's in miscellaneous next year. I mean, that's what your criticism we're setting ourselves up for.
So it's more the definition of the line, I think.
No, it's how you handle a capital purchase.
So two-part, I understand, what you're- yeah.
But anyways,
The,
Move the question on Article 10.
I'm sorry,
Move the question on Article 10.
remove?
I move
Oh,
the
you
question. That means we vote on it.
We're ready to do our yays and nays.
Yeah, exactly. All in favor of recommending Article 10 as written? All opposed? Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $10,000 to be added to the town building maintenance and repair expendable trust fund previously established, majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 0.016 cents per thousand of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 4-0. The budget committee has not recommended.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
This is the one that seems odd to me. Why isn't this just a budget item? You know, but I don't really feel strongly about it. It just seems like, well, this is kind of an every year kind of thing where you take care of your buildings and repair stuff. So why isn't it just a budget item?
We've got capital expense in the operating budget, and somebody would object to it.
Well, sarcasm aside.
I think his question is a very good one.
Yeah, I'll answer.
Don't we do maintenance on our buildings as part of our operations?
I'll be happy to answer that if you let me.
Please.
This is again, that saving for something big, like Chris mentioned, boiler, right? You don't wanna get into a position where the boiler breaks down and you have to scramble to find
I
a
got you.
cover it. So it's for those big ticket items,
I got you.
not the everyday wastebaskets and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there are actually
You can't wait for
multiple,
town meeting.
there are multiple line items for building maintenance in the budget.
But they kind of have to spend it, you know, if it's in the budget for this year, and they may not spend it this year, but they can accrue.
They can accrue it.
Accrue it
Right, I'm
over
just
the
making the
course
point
of
that
years,
there,
yeah.
we have both, one's a reserve
Yeah.
and one's.
That's why I'm thinking, why not just add $10,000 across this and fix it, but now I see your point.
It's the big ticket.
So we don't have to buy a big truck, you know, kind of truck thing, it's really kind of fits into that, boiler versus truck. Seems to me.
We don't know when the boiler's gonna fail.
And we may have a year where 2 boilers fail, one in the town hall and one in another building. You
Yeah.
just can't predict that. So having this trust fund gives us that hedge against that eventuality.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
All right, all in favor of recommending Article 11 as written? you. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be added to the reserve fund previously established for the purpose of the funding the tricentennial fund for the celebration of the town of Nottingham's 300th birthday in 2022. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is .008 per thousand of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 4-0. Do I have a motion to accept the article as written? Carol?
Second.
Discussion?
How much is in this fund already?
10,000? When did it start?
I
2
think
years
it's
ago?
more than
3 years
that.
ago?
It's been on.
It's like 20, isn't it?
I think we put it on track to have, we would have like 50,000 by the time.
By 2022, yeah.
You say that because you think it's a lot or a little.
It sounds like a lot.
It's not.
It's
The
not.
committee is starting to look at things. And if you wanna
Fireworks.
do- You know how they do like the, war reenactments?
Okay.
Those can cost $100,000. I mean, the numbers are outrageous, right?
Is that where we're going? Is
No.
that
Yes,
bigger?
that's outrageous.
Yeah, we may not have to reenact
The,
it.
I just want some good food.
Yeah, me too.
That's all I really care about.
There is a committee
Or we
that
just
is
have to buy
starting
them beer.
evaluate what can be
Homebrew.
done. And we did ask them, you know, the account will be about 50,000, or close to 50,000 by then. We did ask them to put forth what we can do for that amount of money.
Right, what are they envisioning for?
Don't worry.
well, there's all kinds of things. I mean, typically they put together, what is it, the town of Raymond did theirs, 2 years ago?
Deerfield last year.
Deerfield did theirs last year. They had huge commemorative books with lots of history about the town, you know, commemorative items, things like that, a parade, obviously, and a big town gathering. It adds up quick. And the town, I think our town is working, we're working with, Chester has the same, there's like a couple towns that are all due at the same time. So I know that I think our committee's working with the Chester committee to share ideas and whatever else, but.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, all in favor of recommending Article 12 as written? You?
Town report shows 20,307 as of,
Oh, you found it.
last town report.
Okay.
So,
Where'd you find that?
What
page
page?
39.
This is what I just pointed to.
All right, Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the invasive species prevention and eradication removal expendable trust fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 0.016 cents per $1,000 of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 4-0. Do I have a motion to approve or accept Article 13 as written?
Motion to recommend Article 13 as written.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of recommending Article 13 as written? Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,800 for the purpose of conducting courtesy inspections of boats using the state boat launch at Fundy Boat Ramp and the Pawtuckaway State Park boat ramps on Pawtuckaway Lake to remove fragments of exotic invasive aquatic species and to educate the public on how to prevent the spreading of exotic species from water body to water body. By citizen petition, majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 0.008 cents per thousand of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 0-4. Do I have a motion to accept Article 14, or to recommend Article 14 as written?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just like to say one more time that this article and this amount is very specific to this program. And if we support it and it's passed by town meeting, the folks doing this work will know that, you know, they're getting the money they need for the program that they're doing. It's very specific. The previous article doesn't address it.
I would reiterate, I think, you know, next year, I wasn't clued into this when we went through the budget at prior meetings about the line item for line 20, but I think we should consider, or the select board should consider putting it into the operating budget again next year.
Instead of a warrant article,
Yes.
the full 10,000?
No, the 4,800.
Oh.
I think it should be separate. I actually think if you're gonna have a reserve fund or a trust fund, and that doesn't mean you need to fund it $10,000 every year, but it should be for the potential problem down the road as opposed to the annual, what I would consider an annual maintenance contribution towards preventing the invasive species.
So it would be in addition to the 10,000 that you're putting away?
The select board wouldn't necessarily have to recommend 10,000 every year separately.
Right.
I just think it should be a part of the operating budget.
Gotcha.
Question, and I know we've discussed this in terms of potential to overfund this or replicate funding for essentially the same thing. But are we doing everything we can do to educate voters? Can we go beyond what we're doing right now to educate them so that perhaps before they get here, they check their own boat, they check their own trailer, and they do the work before they get here as opposed to them being found when they get here and they're saying, why are you doing this? So are we making the assumption that we're doing everything we possibly could do even if we had more money?
I don't know if the town itself has any program. The program being done is by the Lake Association.
Yeah, I know, so can we,
I don't know
if
if
we
the
had a
town has any
budget,
program.
could we be more aggressive in terms of reaching out to people?
I don't know that there is anything that we could do to be more aggressive to reach out to people. The New Hampshire Lakes Association is extremely active, and they do statewide education. So I think it comes at that level. I couldn't envision a scenario where the town would be doing something to try to get people before they come here. A lot of them come from Massachusetts.
But I bet sizable, you know, I'm brainstorming, you know, I'll do it really quick and then move on. You know, probably a lot of these people come more than once, you know, and they come back year to year. If we could get their email address, send them some materials, you know, to preempt them leaving, be sure you check your boat and your trailer.
The Lake Coast show them how to check their boat and their trailer when they're putting their boats in. They have literature that they hand out. 99.99% of the voters are friendly and responsive and do pay attention to their boats.
Well, but people still call me and ask me if I'm gonna take my dental appointment, you know, a week before, you know. So I'm just saying, I suggest that we just don't assume that we couldn't use this extra money.
Did you say you lived on Shore Road or Dolph Dam?
I live on Lamprey,
Oh, Lamprey?
yeah.
You should get involved in the PLIA, they could use some good ideas.
Well, I just was just throwing it out there before, since we're sitting here right now talking about, do we want to potentially turn down $5,000 for this program because it's redundant. Well, maybe it's not redundant if we brainstorm other ways to use it. So I just wanted to throw it out there before we vote 0 to 8.
I
not
guess
to do it.
along the same lines, how many days is the state park boat ramp staffed right now by the Lake Coast?
You know what, I don't know how many days they're running it now, they're doing it now. When I ran the program, we were doing it on Thursday afternoons, Friday afternoons, Saturday mornings, trying to get when the campers were coming in. I think that they may have expanded those hours, but I'm not certain when they are.
I guess my point was that it's not necessarily fully staffed as it is now, because I think the town I'm assuming the town and that there's two separate ramps that they're staffing, it's mostly volunteers and they're not
Yeah,
staffed
my
all the
wife
time.
has done it, and I thought I probably will be doing it as well this year in terms of the volunteer stuff.
Right, so I guess my point, to your point, is
Yeah.
that the extra money wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing.
No, I just, yeah, and so I just want to throw it out there, and I realize it's redundant, and, but if there's no use for it, then kill it. But if we could use it, and maybe it's not a bad idea.
So what,
Donna, isn't there money left over, though? Like, they're not fully expending all the funds every year, correct?
Well, so that was something that we talked about, last year, with the PLIA. The way that the matching for the program works is that, you get a grant from New Hampshire Lakes, right? And say your grant is $4,000. The association, the Lake Association, receiving that grant has to match that amount in either hard cash or volunteer hours, okay? And so, the PLIA has done, man, I think the volunteer hours adds up to like something like 300 or 400 volunteer hours. And that's where, in the past, they've used volunteers to staff the state park launch. So the matching has come through the hard cash from the town, plus the volunteer hours and some small cash contributions. Now, the PLIA pays the salaries, right? So the lake hosts who are getting paid are employees of New Hampshire Lakes. So you have to keep your dollars matched in there so that they're not carrying your salaries, right? And typically, the way that it has gone in the past is that the New Hampshire Lakes Association grant is the first money that they use, because we have to wait until after the first tax bills to disperse money, right? So PLIA typically has gone through the grant first, and then they start using additional dollars. So they have to stay just ahead of that salary. And my understanding, in the past, we used to try to keep it real close, right? Within like $100, right? My understanding was that last year that there was $1,000 that was left over, that sat with the Lakes Association to carry over till the next year. And so one of the questions that we asked was, would it be better if that money was sitting with the town than the Hampshire Lakes Association? So that's where the whole money left over thing came from. And the actual amount it's spent all depends on the weather, right? Like it got rainy and cold early in the fall. So that's less days when they had to pay people out.
But I think that's why they did the petitioned articles. They want to make sure that $4,800 is designated by the town of Nottingham to provide these matching funds. Otherwise, they'll have trouble getting the grants and getting the state. And so once again, there's something going on there, but I think it wouldn't be here if they didn't feel they needed it.
Well, I think, I don't know, I guess it was in a newsletter that just came out recently where someone found a mature piece of milfoil on a trailer in early October, coming into the lake. So it's just, from what I understand, once it gets going, it's hard to stop.
It's already in it.
Yeah.
So,
This is such an important program.
so anyway, I just want to throw it out there before we say it's redundant. We've already got that covered. We've got all the money we need.
Well,
How would we spend it? So let's say no.
if I may say one more thing, it's not redundant because there's no other place in the budget that has a specific program funded for $4,800 except for Article 14. So this is not redundant. This is a unique spending proposal for this purpose. We can either support it or not. It sounds like we all like what they're doing, so it seems to me we should support it.
My understanding is that Article 13 does cover the Lake Coast program.
I don't see it.
Well, in reality, it
It does.
does, is
It
what I'm
does.
understanding. My question is.
Just
do
because
we-
it's not dedicated only to that program, doesn't mean that that program doesn't benefit from it.
Well, maybe we need some funds that are dedicated to that program.
And why exclude the rest of the public bodies of water in town?
We're not
Why?
excluding it, we have that $10,000 for all the other bodies. What if something comes up where we need that $10,000 for Nottingham Pond or something, then all of a sudden there's no money for the Lake Coast program? They want a specific town designated fund to support what they're doing, which is incredibly important to our town.
They're all equally important.
Like, I'm surprised we're even having a debate about it, to be honest with you. It's shocking to me. But that's me. What do I know?
I would rather put the money toward this and try to boost it than, this is just me, than putting $5,000 toward a 300th birthday.
Yeah, it's $4,800.
I'm particularly bothered that
Not gonna break
that
us.
the petitioners didn't show up to the select board to advocate for it. And for that reason, I'm planning to abstain. I don't think it's my position to vote to recommend it or not recommend it if the petitioners aren't here to tell me. I'll leave it up to what goes on at town meeting, and I'm gonna abstain on this recommendation.
You know, I think there's a communication problem here, but I don't think we should hold it against the people trying to do this good work.
I would think if it was that important to them, they would have shown up to
Well, so-
advocate for it.
They petitioned the article to get it before town meeting. Obviously, it's very important to them.
So it's gonna get,
That was a
think
foolish
that-
comment.
before
I think
town
that the
meeting.
whole thing is extremely important to the town.
Yes,
I think
extremely
that,
important.
But I still think that, it is, I think it's a duplicate, or redundant of Article 13, and that, this should be, and I do think that it should be, something that is considered for, next year's budget to be actually a line item in the budget, to maintain. And then, you know, then the Article 13 would be, I don't know what amount would go in there, but if it's still $10,000 or anything, you know, greater or lesser, whatever, but that funds should still be put aside for, the invasive species issues, that could potentially arise, and especially if it's $30,000 per acre. It's a huge amount of money.
Well, I'm just gonna give the heads up. I'm gonna vote yes, and if it passes, I will take the responsibility for making certain that $4,800 is in addition to other revenue for it, that $4,800 will be spent wisely and incrementally, and provide incremental value to what is already being spent.
And maybe that's the important takeaway, that, you know, and maybe that's something that the select board can pay attention to at town meeting, maybe as a whole. You know, maybe the town is interested in dedicating more money to this purpose, whether it's dedicated to a particular lake or not. And if that's the case, maybe that's something the select board can consider, to increase that total amount, you know,
In the budget.
combined, and put it in the
So
budget.
you have management over it, and you can, you know.
Unified
and
management,
unified management
rather
with-
than dividing
in
efforts.
conjunction with your grants and so forth.
But, you know, maybe it becomes some, maybe we put 15,000 in the budget next year for lake protection.
Given the importance of the community, would
Yeah.
seem to be a wise investment to me.
And that's certainly something we can discuss and consider.
Well, given that Article 14 specifically addresses the conducting the courtesy inspections at those two ramps, I think if that's already been covered by another warrant article, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to set up a whole nother inspection on the same stuff
No,
concurrently.
don't
but
think
you
that
can use
that's-
Article 13 for different things. You have
Right.
more flexibility in Article 13.
Yeah, I don't think
Article-
it is
Well,
covered.
that's what they're planning to do with it.
Well, but that'll
Right.
change if they have money dedicated for that specific purpose.
I would hope the select board would say no if a second request for 4,800 comes for the same purpose, that they'll say no to that.
It sounds like too many people trying to manage the same,
The same money.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm telling you, that I will
Alright.
take responsibility for making sure that it's wisely spent.
you
I'm on the lake
can
and I
only
have
spend
it.
that one on those launches.
Very limited scope, that's the danger of
Yeah,
it.
the
14
wording.
is, but not 13.
13, well, 13
Right.
says is bodies of water.
Okay,
So somebody mentioned knotweed, I've never even heard of it. You know, I don't know if, you know.
It's a land
That's a
plant.
whole different thing, yeah.
It's not an aquatic.
But it would be, yeah, it's not an aquatic thing, but, you know.
well, I mean,
Article
from what I
13
understand, the
is-
reality is most of Article 13 goes toward what Article 14 is currently doing. But it's not stated that it must be used for that purpose.
Right.
So if you can use Article 14 for the purpose that Article 13 is typically used for, then we can use Article 13 for something different, as more of an outreach program to try and nip things in the bud a little sooner, rather than hoping and doing a good job of catching them once they get, just before they put their trailer in the water with millful on it.
Or saving Article 13
So,
for
so
the
obviously, we're not
eventual
getting it
disaster
all
that will-
because it's growing.
Yeah, in Article 13, we could use it to hire people to go to the schools and teach our students about these issues and go to, you know, have public meetings and teach, you know, once again. Huh?
Yeah.
And where?
We've done that
past.
for free in the past.
At the Nottingham schools? All right.
You know, another thing to point out, the language of Article 14 doesn't restrict it from private bodies of water. And you can't use public money for private purposes.
It's a public lake, but Tuckaway Lake belongs to the town.
Right, but, you know, preventing the spread of exotic species from water body to water body, that could cover somebody's frog pond.
I don't think anyone cares how it got on the trailer just before it goes into the lake.
Right, but by law, we cannot spend public money on private purposes. And then the language of this article leaves that open as a possibility.
No, we're
That
funding.
in and of itself is enough to vote it down.
Well,
disagree with that
I mean, if it's worded to the point that we legally cannot consider it, then take it out. But it's in there, so I'm
Well, it's
assuming legally we can consider it.
it's a citizen petition article, you can't.
It just says how to educate public on how to
Yeah,
prevent
I'm
the
not willing
spread
to say no on
from
a
water body to
technicality.
water body.
Can I just
It could
ask,
also be amended at
you know,
some.
one question I do have is that it's not clear where these funds go.
Yeah, that's
From
where
this-
I'm hung up.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about it, but I'm just not sure when if this is, I'm not opposed to this. Anything we can do to ensure our waterways
Can
are,
we amend to the language of it, or can we just amend
Not a
the?
petition article.
Cannot change the language.
But you could at town meeting. There could be a motion to amend it.
petitioners maybe
Yeah, I
could if
think
they
so,
wanted
right?
to.
Petitioners.
At town meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it could be amended to go to PLIA for the purpose of conducting the
Right.
courtesy inspections, because they're the ones who do it.
Right. Yeah. All right. So, do I have, all in favor of recommending Article 14 as, written? All oppose? And abstain?
Is that 3 to 2 to 4? So we support it?
We'll sort it out at town, we'll sort it out at town.
Not really.
Bravo in there somewheres. Okay.
All right.
Now, that vote represents how we feel about things.
Exactly.
Let them
A
duke
lot of
it out
people are
at
gonna
town
feel the
meeting.
same way.
Form your own opinion.
Articles
Once I know where the money's going, I'll vote.
15, all the way through do not require us to recommend in any way, shape, or form. So, does anybody have anything else that they want to discuss? Let's see, general town updates.
I think we had them all
Yeah, I
tonight.
think we have. School updates, no big
Nothing's
changes
happened
since
since Tuesday.
All
Thank
right.
you all
So,
for
yeah.
Tuesday.
Do we not meet again until town meeting?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what? I have to
Well,
look
what
at
was
the-
the 26th? What's that?
Do we have to sign this?
26
We
is
have
the
to-
public hearing for the bond.
So tell me about that. What do we do? We here?
They,
We there?
they meet right here.
Selectmen meeting.
It's a select board meeting on on a Monday night, but it's a public hearing, right?
It's select
Right.
board.
But you can come.
On the road bond.
I mean, you can be here. It's a public.
Hear all the Q&A and the for and against and the,
I abstained.
so
Well, maybe it'll help you
enlighten me.
decide,
I'm
yeah.
all
Yeah,
for
exactly.
it.
So, I don't have.
We'll watch it
my-
on channel 22.
Yeah,
Do with my
yeah.
calendar.
We'll watch the video after Dawn posts it.
That's
YouTube it from you.
it. YouTube it.
Yeah, exactly. On the off chance I might actually be home, not at work.
For those of us who don't.
I don't have my, what did I do with that?
I have one.
I have it in here somewhere, I just can't find it, I got too many pages. There it is. Nope, that's the phone numbers.
Is this one, Laura?
Yeah, what's the next dates?
I think that's it.
Is this it? We're
Just had
just,
snow
We're
dates.
just done.
Deliberative session, oh wait,
public hearing of the 2018 town budget, February,
We're done.
that's it?
We're gonna have to get, when this is prepared, this,
So, yeah, so the only thing we have to do is, the, MS 737 and sign the document, right? What's the timeframe for getting that document?
Dawn will be in touch with you and ask you to come by and sign it. She'll send a picture of it to you and then ask you to come in and sign the original.
Okay.
You didn't make a lot of changes, so we
No.
should be relatively quick.
Yeah, we didn't make,
Made any changes?
I think we're good.
I have one other item of
Yes.
important business. We had a public deliberative session on Tuesday night. And at that deliberative session, the floor voted to and passed a recommendation to increase the school board budgets, or school board salaries,
Right.
stipends. And that may or may not impact how we as the committee vote to recommend that school board budget. For me, I don't think it's material enough to change my vote, but if anybody else thinks that, had they known that it was gonna be that, they wouldn't have voted for it, now's your opportunity to say so.
They also decreased the,
They decreased
the
this-
high school
Yeah, they-
commission, so the overall
They gave
impact.
us the heads up on that before we voted at the public hearing, though.
it still ended up being a net
But it was a net
cut
decrease.
from the last review